Sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective, hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and hopefully the Sharks don't have pull in their stockings, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening, fans. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. Merry Christmas, Avalanche fans, Sharks fans, hockey fans. Merry Christmas to everyone around the league in NHL. Merry Christmas to you, Dom.
And to you, Corey, and happy holidays to everyone else out there who doesn't celebrate Christmas. It's great to have you with us. And yeah, it was, well, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Corey. I know we talked about it and it sounded like it was great for both of us, but I also hope all the fans out there had an enjoyable and a happy Christmas morning yesterday.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dom, for covering me there. Yes, I believe Hanukkah, the last day of Hanukkah, fell on the same day of Christmas this year as well. So happy Hanukkah to anybody who celebrates that and whatever holidays you celebrate, if you celebrate. But of course, this episode is coming out 2 days after Christmas, but we figured we'd give you that belated feeling anyway. Well, I have some exciting, interesting fact to share that this is the final episode of the year. That's right, everyone. Next week will be a new year when you hear from us, I guess, next. And along with that, Dom will have some new power rankings for you since there's been quite a shakeup in the league since Thanksgiving, which is frankly pretty remarkable.
And I mean, yeah, I remember I said, mark my words, the Avs were going to climb up the table by the time we got to Christmas, and not going to spoil it too much for you, but yeah, it is time. We are overdue for power rankings. There has been a big shift. Teams like Pittsburgh making big moves. The Sharks sliding back down, unfortunately, which we've already talked about somewhat. But, you know, you'll get a sense of where it lies in the grander scheme of the league compared to before. But for now, how about this unique episode to finish out the year, hearing us stitch together? You might hear that same welcome introduction message twice in the episode.
Very true, Dom. Very true. And we'll get to that here in just a second. But briefly, I did mean to say thank you, everybody who's loyally joined us. The few of you that there are, but thank you nonetheless for joining us on really what's only the beginning of our hockey journey here, as we really do love doing this, regardless of how many of you tune in every week. But we appreciate that you do. And, you know, for 13 episodes in our first kind of part of the season here, we're really looking forward to doing more of them, even with life getting in the way, I think, sometimes of our ability to do it. I think me and Dom, to speak for him a little bit, really do love doing this. So just a brief, I know we say it all the time, but we do really mean it, a brief thank you to everybody for tuning in this year in 2024, and we definitely look forward to doing even more in 2025.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, Corey. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump right into our notes from the week. We can't stop talking about them. Well, first, actually, I want to talk about this. The Buffalo Sabres have won a game in the month of December. It's a Christmas fucking miracle. Lou Lamoriello staring down, I believe it was Alexander Romanov. Did you see that clip, by the way?
I did not, although I did
on.
see pretty much everything else that you sent me. Just for everyone's awareness listening in, this man sent me everything Buffalo Sabres meme, joke, whatever you want to call it, whatever you could find. Every single Buffalo Sabres thing you could find on Instagram, other than this apparently, he has sent my way already. It has been quite our watching note for the past week.
I can't help myself. Dom, I'm linking you this clip right now. You need to see. Why is he looking at him like that?
Oh my God.
Why is he looking at him like that? What?
Oh my God. He's always watching.
Seriously. Well, everyone, I will happily link that video if you haven't seen it. I'd be shocked if you hadn't, but like, I don't know what he's doing. Lou Lamoriello scares me though, so I'm not going to mess with him. But yes, the Buffalo Sabres won a game against the New York Islanders, and it was an absolute blowout, 7-1. And what was funny to me is going into the third period, the Buffalo Sabres were up 6-1, and seeing that, I thought to myself, there's still a way they can blow this game.
And, that's not unreasonable, unfair to believe with what they've shown us in the month of December. And just overall as a franchise, we talked about it before, just the lack of commitment to winning and winning consistently. If they may or may not spend up to the cap, we can go back down that rabbit hole another time. Point being, I wouldn't put anything past Buffalo when it comes to performing poorly.
But thank goodness they did it, because we play Buffalo on January 2nd, and I did not want to go into playing them if they were continuing the losing streak, because no matter how bad things get, it would end eventually, no matter what. And, maybe you feel the same way, Dom, but I feel like the longer the team is in a streak of any kind, the more likely the next game is to break that streak, whether that's winning or losing.
True, fair enough. I mean, it has to get better at some point, right?
Or
No
worse.
team loses 80 games straight.
Exactly.
And it can get worse, but they can't. No team's going to lose every game and lose that many in a row. We haven't seen it before. It goes down to probability curves, and when you are more than 3 standard deviations from the mean, you are less than a % chance of happening. So well
Exactly.
beyond that, and it's even lower. So there's your little math lesson from Grandpa Dom over here.
Thank you, Dom. That's why you're an aerospace engineer and I'm a finance person. Hooray. Well, keeping it in New York, I thought we'd talk about Matt Rempe's hit on Miro Heiskanen because, of course, the internet needs our opinions on the matter, although I don't think it's terribly controversial to say that that was just an ugly hit. It was not good, and really, it has all the textbook definitions of everything that's bad. It's a boarding hit. It's to the numbers. Heiskanen's not ready for it. But then he also elevates his elbow to the back of Heiskanen's head, which was completely unnecessary. You can see, go-go gadget extendo neck on poor Heiskanen. And I don't like the stars, but I don't want to see the man get his head lopped off by the axe of Rempe's elbows.
Yeah, it's the one thing I did say to you, Corey, and I still think is true, is that Rempe is a tall guy. So I get that it's hard to sometimes always be perfect, but this hit was just so bad, so high, like you said, right at the neck. Sure, if boarding is one thing and it happens, and dirtier players are more prone to it, but to do it at neck height, you need to have more control. You've made it to this level as a professional, being that size. Just aim your stick lower. Why is your stick going into his neck? That's just dumb. It's not being aware. It's brute hockey, not brain hockey. And in the league today, I think you need to be. All these guys are super smart out there. They're not just these grunt athletes who are going around hitting each other. So he needs to wise up if he's going to stay in the league long term.
Well, here's my issue with it, right? Because I agree with you. He's 6'7", 6'8". He gets taller every time he's talked about. But if you watch it, they show the side angle as he not from behind, but as he goes into him on the boards. And if he would have kept his arm down, it really would have been shoulder on, I guess, back. But excuse me, it would not nearly have been as bad. But Rempe actually brings up his elbow to collide with the back of Heiskanen's head. Like, he purposefully raises his arm to then hit Freudian slip, Heiskanen in the back of the head. So there was intent that he raises his arm. If he would have kept it down, it would have been less of an issue and likely a lesser of a suspension. But you watch it back in slow motion and you see him pick up his arm and just slam Heiskanen in the back of the head.
Yeah, and he's showing that he is a dirty player. I think you have the stat, Corey, of the number of times he's been ejected.
I do.
In his total games.
He's been ejected 4 times across 22 games. He's already been suspended once for 4 games, and now he's been suspended for 8.
So we have a new rat in the making, folks, and this one's bigger than the others. It is a rat of unusual size, a rodent of unusual size, an ROUS, one might say, because I may or may not have done my annual quota of watching that movie today.
You watched Princess Bride today?
Yeah, I watch it once per year, typically around the holidays. It's like one of those movies you have to watch once per year.
Absolutely. Well, but here was actually my biggest issue with it is as he gets ejected, he taunts the crowd in Dallas.
That's
Come
such
on.
an immature thing
Come
to do.
on.
You're a professional athlete. You need to represent better. Represent New York better. They need somebody to represent them. God. And then, you gotta just be a good human, be a good person. You are on a big stage, so don't be acting like a petulant child, throwing a temper tantrum and getting into it with other people. Like you're there to play the game. You fucked up. Go walk down the tunnel. Don't start arguing with a random fan. Like they're going to chirp you when you do some dirty shit. You got to be able to handle it. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time type of thing. But
Well,
I know I said he's big. The one thing I just want to throw in there really quickly is Zdeno Chara was this big, if not bigger, and he figured out how to hit clean and fight people the right way as well. So if he can do it, there's no reason, even though that's like the one excuse I could come up with, it's no excuse for Rempe at this point.
if you fight Zdeno Chara, I wish you the best of luck. That is a bold decision. But no, it's like as he skates off, he throws his arms up like the come on type, like the goading. And it's like, I get it if you do that, if you're in front of your home crowd and you're trying to pump them up after like a fight or something. But to do that after you've pretty much knocked somebody unconscious on the ice and maybe given them a concussion to then taunt the visiting fans, I don't think that's very classy. I personally did not like the move very much, but
Yeah, no, it's ugly. It's not professional at all.
no. Staying quickly in New York though, or we'll be talking about this all night because I always get so heated about things like that. But Chris Kreider was a healthy scratch right before the Rangers' final game of the season that they got, before the freeze, which they got shut out in, by the way. And to me, that I don't think is indicative of poor play, which his play hasn't been great. But I think that's we got to make sure this guy doesn't get injured because we're about to trade him type move.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. We've already talked about how the Rangers really are selling the farm, selling the whole team, other than dirty hit Rempe McGee.
I don't know
And
if he'll even be
so,
back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so Kreider seems to be the next man on the block. I also have a thing related to the Sharks, surprisingly, connecting the Sharks and Rangers on this topic that we can get to. Should I
Go
talk
for
about
it.
that
What do you
now or
got?
later?
No, go for it. What do you got?
Well, there are talks that Barclay Goodrow could be on the trade block coming up towards the deadline, and I personally don't think so because he is the veteran leader in the room. And supporting this, there was an article from NHL Insider quoting Nick Kyprios.
I think, Kyprios.
Kyprios. He suggested that waiving Goodrow was the first big mistake that impacted the Rangers' decline. And the reason I agree with that is because Goodrow is a veteran player. He's not going to score a ton, and he has regressed since he's left New York. But he's that fourth line grinder. He hits hard. He will step up and fight guys for you, but he is a locker room presence. He is a leader in the locker room. He is a hard-nosed, playing with grit hockey player who is going to be in the trenches on those lower lines. And so I see why that could be a valuable trade piece for a rebuilding Sharks team. However, I hope he stays since that's what we brought him in the first place, to be a leader and a tone setter in the locker room. Anyway, that was some Sharks news tied in there, but I do wonder, and while we're talking about New York, Corey, do you think a guy who can set the tone in the locker room and be a talisman that brings teams together, losing that to the waivers early on in the year, was that perhaps something that impacted New York and caused such a drastic decline?
I genuinely think a lot of their problems are in the locker room. So yeah, absolutely. That was a great tie-in, Dom. And I think the issues that they had with Trouba not wanting to go anywhere over the summer, and it was very public that they wanted to get rid of him. They wanted to trade him. That caused issues, but he was still their captain, and that's a big locker room guy. Then they get rid of him when stuff's already spiraling downwards. And like you said before that, they'd also gotten rid of Goudreau, who I'm sure, as you mentioned, was also a big locker room presence. So now at this point, you're getting rid of all the big locker room presences. And once Kreider's gone, that's another one. So then who's going to step up next? They all hate Chris Drury right now, minus the guy who just got paid $11.5 million. So I'm sure there's a lot of rifts going on in the room right now. It cannot be good behind closed doors.
Oh, absolutely cannot. And so I just saw that, and I wondered if that truly was the case, because if Barclay Goodrow is such a highly regarded player who has been a leader in most locker rooms he's been in, if that was a catalyst that started the decline. Obviously, yes, the Trubo before is a good point. But great opportunity to tie in the Sharks to the Rangers, and I hope the Sharks don't make the same mistake. That's my only other final point here is, if he is such a locker room setter, I know the Sharks have not been on their best over the past couple of weeks, but you still have that veteran presence for a reason. These young kids are going to get better, but they need someone to teach them the way and help them through these losses. So I would hope that they don't trade Goodrow and can recognize his value to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for the Avalanche, Andrew Cogliano was that kind of guy. I mean, just an absolute exemplary veteran player who always wasn't afraid to stand up in the locker room and set the tone, set the example. And now he's still with the Avalanche organization as part of management. So, I mean, it just shows you how impactful those kinds of guys are. And honestly, he's somebody who I wish could have played maybe another year. But yeah, he went through hell and back through his career. Glad he got rewarded with the cup. So I completely agree with you. And I hope that the Sharks can hold on to Goudreau and not let him go again, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know why he went in the first place. I honestly haven't looked into that from that far back. I should, but
Yeah, be interesting to know.
yeah, he's been someone I've always recognized as that player who is a tone setter. He's not the biggest guy out there, but he isn't always going to fight, but he will be that guy to step up and fight someone who has been hit hard, and or who has been hit hard. He'll fight the guy on the other team. I'm still a little bit out of it today, folks, but is to be expected when you have to work the week of Christmas. Anywho, Corey, I'm gonna pass it back to you because I think we've summed up the Goodrow thing right now.
Yeah, but not staying. I keep saying that. But to wrap up New York here, if the Rangers do end up missing the playoffs, their downfall needs to be studied. I'm sure there will absolutely be other people who make great analysis videos on that you can go and watch, and I certainly will be watching because I'm really curious to know all the same. Well, going to a different team, the Panthers had a back-to-back against their in-state rival Lightning, and interestingly enough, both teams won in the visiting arenas. The Panthers won in Tampa, and the Bolts won in Sunrise. But during the game in Tampa, the Panthers had not one, but two shorthanded goals against the Bolts in the same penalty kill.
Wow, against Vasi, no less, I assume.
Yes, it was Vasi in net for that game. One of them was the most disgusting backhand I have ever seen in my life. Everybody go look it up. It made me want to vomit, and it was just cool, and it was just something that I wanted to bring up as kind of just a highlight from this week. It was gross. And what was funny is I saw the first shorthanded goal, but I was at work, so I had to get up and go attend to a customer. And I came back and I saw the score changed again. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't realize that the Panthers had scored two back-to-back shorty goals in the same PK, which it's remarkable to get one shorthanded goal in the game, let alone two, but even more rare to get two in the same PK. I don't think people understand just how insane that is.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I don't know when the last time that would have happened. That is beyond rare. That is wow. Well, it's so interesting too that they both went on the road, and they're both playoff caliber teams. Who knows? Who knows why that happens? But I'm honestly surprised Vasilevsky was on the wrong side of that stat with the rare two shorthanded goals on the same PK, because That's not a good list to be on, I'm sure.
No. And what's interesting is both teams lost to the other team's backup goaltender. So the Florida Panthers played Spencer Knight the night that the Bolts played Vasi at home. And then Bobrovsky lost at home in Sunrise to Jonas Johansson. So interesting stuff.
This just gets even more interesting.
I know. The more layers we unpeel of this onion, the more interesting it becomes. So moving along, though, something that struck fear into my heart, Dom. Have you happened to tune into any Utah games recently, Dom?
I have not. What is going on?
Well, Utah, of course, the land of the Mormons. They have a chant for their team that has no name. And frankly, it scares me. It's like, Utah, Utah, Utah. It sounds like a cult, and I'm horrified.
Well, they would be experienced and knowledgeable about cults, I would think. But that's interesting and terrifying at the same time, and I hope they aren't pissed off by my joke.
Oh, what are they gonna do? Come and fight us. We'll fight you. We watch hockey. We know how to fight. No. We love you, Utah. I don't love your chant. I can't lie. It's scary. I can't wait till your team gets a name so you don't have to say that anymore. Please stop.
Be the Mammoth, the Utah Mammoth. It'd be so cool.
No, that's our lacrosse team. Don't steal that.
Okay, fine. Then Utah Yeti. It rolls off the tongue. They can be abominable
No,
snowmen.
that's the Avalanche's logo. I know it wasn't the most popular. I liked Frost and I liked Fury. I liked both of those, but it doesn't look like that's going to be one. It honestly looks like it's going to be Yeti, but we'll see. You know what's going to happen is everybody thinks it's going to be one thing, and then it's just going to come out and be some out of left field fucking shit. It was just like the Nazem Kadri signing when he went to free agency after he was done with the Avalanche. Literally everyone on earth thought he was going to the Islanders. Like, the Flames weren't even in the discussion. It was either he was re-signing with the Avs or he was going to the Islanders. And all of a sudden they're like, Nazem Kadri signs with the Flames. And everybody's like, what the fuck just happened? So it's going to be something like that.
Fair. Other finalist names for the Utah Hockey Club, by the way, they have narrowed it down to 6 final names. The other ones are, of course, other than Utah HC, which we hope they move on from soon.
That is actually so awful.
Yeah, it's worse than when Washington was the Washington football team, because at least since they were in DC, I could call them the Washington Redacted and just joke that their team name was Redacted. So at least there was a joke there. There was something fun I could do with it. With Utah, there's nothing I can do that's punny. I can just call them the Moes, but that's no fun. Everyone makes that joke. So anyway, remaining names of the final 6 are the Utah Blizzard, which I think would actually be solid. Open logo there. You could do like Carolina's style, but with blue. The Utah Outlaws, which I always think of Outlaws with red and black, so I don't know how that works with their blue. And the Utah Venom, which I don't think goes with the color scheme at all, personally. So yeah, there you go, everyone. Maybe we have a poll to see what people think it should be.
Yes, I agree. And I mean, I think that's how they're choosing the name, is by public vote anyway. So
they started with a public vote to get down to those final 6, but it seems like the GM's office, the front office, everyone can make that final decision. And both their GM, Bill Armstrong, and forward Clayton Keller have referenced the name Yeti. So Yeti is the front runner. I think Mammoth and Blizzard are good names, though, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Dom, because you just inspired the fun fact of the day, which I totally had ready before this episode started. Speaking of names, so I'm going to save that now for the end. I was going to talk about something that had to do with the Avalanche, but I will save it. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, okay. If they go with hockey club, there's something wrong with the world. This is not football. When I say football, I mean soccer. Sorry, I watch a lot of Welcome to Wrexham, so I call it football. But yeah, no, this is not good. This is not a soccer club. This is not a football club. Stop calling it Utah. You know what? I honestly like calling it Utah HC. That's at least like a little better, but calling it Utah Hockey Club. Oh God, Makes me want to vom.
It's the Utah head coaches, everyone.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, everyone, getting into our analysis, Dom and I had something special for you all this week, and that's live analysis. This last week, Dom and I had the opportunity to watch a hockey game together in person. More specifically, the Avalanche at San Jose. I had a great time. Dom, what about you?
Well, I had a great period. That much I can say. There was one period where the Sharks were
time hanging out together.
Yes, that we did. It was a really great time having you over, enjoying pizza, wings, great conversation, and quite a fun hockey game to watch, to be honest. I don't want to take away from our analysis that we clip in here for everyone, because I hope they enjoy the live reactions and the, let's call it the roller coaster ride that were the different period intermissions.
Seriously, and I apologize. I did not mean to cut you off when you were talking about your one period of happiness.
Oh, you're all good, man. But that was how it went, and you're right. It was a good time together overall, and I very much enjoyed the game. And I'm looking forward to seeing the next one with you here in March.
Also, exactly. Everyone thank Dom. He gave me my new friend Herman a duck that sits on the side of my glasses. And ever since I got Herman and put him on my glasses, the Avalanche have not lost a game since. So, for those of you who watch hockey and you're not superstitious, I don't really know how you watch hockey, to be perfectly honest with you. Everybody who watches hockey is superstitious. In fact, a good example, Patrick Waugh used to hit the same pylon before every playoff game because they hit the pylon and then they won that night. There's a bit more to that story, but that's just what I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not always the most superstitious, but when it comes to hockey, I am a little stitious, and I'm glad I could give you a sprout that was the right colors too to fit with the Avs colors.
Yes.
And yes, your little good luck charm. You're welcome, Avs Faithful, because apparently the Sharks need to receive some sort of gift like that that can help turn our luck around. A little talisman friend from afar who will bolden the team to victory or embolden.
Yes, exactly. And if you all want a Herman of your own, I guess you'll have to find Dom at a local EDM show, and he will happily gift you one from his bucket hat. Do I have that correct?
See y'all at Decadence, folks. We'll have some of them there, and I don't wear them to every show, but if you find me and I'm dressed up, I'll have all those ducky sprouts, I call them, so I can bequeath you your own. Bestow. I don't know. Words, man.
I think both of those work. I think they both work in that situation. And thank you. I didn't know what the proper terminology for them were. So ducky sprouts. Ducky. I love them. But anyway, before we get into our regularly scheduled analysis, we're happy to bring you our in-between the period takes from the aforementioned game. So pass Corey, pass Dom, take it away. Welcome to this special intermission edition of the Captain Avalanche Fancast, live from the tank. Dom, we're in your home right now.
Hey, it's great to have you here, Corey, and watch this game, even if the game isn't going great so far, and won't be able to explain this first period for everyone.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you're already ready to kick me out. The lovely Paige isn't, but I'm pretty sure with how that first period went for you emotionally, that you're already ready for me to go ahead and hit the road.
No, I don't want to kick you out. I just want to kick the Sharks in the ass and wake them up a little bit and kick Georgiev out of the game so we can see Askarov in net. That would be great.
Listen, he's only let in one so far, so credit where credit's due.
Okay, credit where credit's due.
But, however, during the pregame, they talked about how poorly the Avalanche's power play has been. We touched on it last episode. We're probably going to touch on it more today. Thanks, future Corey and future Dom. But as of this current moment in time, the Avalanche power play struck, and it struck quickly.
Yeah, Corey, it was very early in the game, and the notes that you know I have, but for everyone else at home, I have quite simply, Georgiev sucks with multiple exclamation points because 30 seconds of power play time, one shot on goal, and one Avalanche score on the board. So, not great of a start for the Sharks tonight.
Well, we talked about how your goaltender is your best penalty killer, and Unfortunately, we've swapped that ability. There we go. We've swapped that ability. That now the Avalanche's penalty kill, I think one of the biggest reasons why it's improved so greatly is you got the man who can make the stops now. And we already saw it. There's a great chance for your guys early on in the period, and Blackwood made just an absolute airmail save to get across the crease. And, you know, no hate on Georgiev's end. That's just not something I would see him making earlier in the season. And it's funny that the one that actually got through Georgiev, I was going to say it's actually perfectly Georgiev, right? Oh, there's the replay right there. Who was that? Who's 72 for your team, Dom?
72 would be Eklund setting up Will Smith there. And what for those of you who aren't watching it live with us right now, Blackwood extended doing his Superman impression yet again and flashed the glove. He did not catch it in his glove this time, but did enough to make the save and be in good position for the rebound. And you were absolutely right when you said that the goalie is the most important penalty killer. And that is why I have a problem with Coach Warsofsky tonight, because you have this opportunity to elevate Askarov and give him a chance to play against Blackwood, prove that he is the future of the franchise. And the Avs really want to score on Georgiev. So put in the young kid and let's see what we have. And we'd have a better penalty killer at the back end for the Sharks.
I truly think that the storyline was just too tantalizing. You know, the return of Blackwood to the tank, Georgiev going against his former club, and really not too long after the trade happened. It really,
what has it been, 10 days?
I think, yeah, something like that. So I just think the storyline was just too tantalizing right now, and I think they're going to wait a little bit before they give Askarov that first opportunity. But I do think it's only a matter of time. But I told you before this game even started that it's a mental thing that the Avalanche are probably thrilled at the prospect of being able to shoot on Georgiev. Now, here's my question for you. I was thinking about it today just as I brainstormed for this game. Do you think the players or the goaltender have the bigger advantage when going against their former team? Because, of course, the goaltender, they know who's coming at them. Georgiev knows Nathan McKinnon, he knows Mikko Rantanen, he knows what they're going to do. But the players also know this goalie's quirks. They're the one who they practice with all the time. So what do you think? Who has the bigger advantage here?
I think it's actually case-by-case basis. It depends. For the really skilled goaltenders, I think they always have the advantage no matter what. If you're telling me Hellebuck is on a different team for a night, he's going to win no matter where he's at. Same with Jake Ottinger, same with someone like Shesterkin. So that top tier of goaltenders, I believe, will always hold the advantage just because they are that good and well-placed positionally. And like we saw there, that was individual effort and individual talent, one-on-one. It doesn't matter who's shooting the puck at you. All you have to do is take up as much space in front of the net and have quicker reflexes. So it's about adapting to the situation there. So I think in this case, with all of the offensive talent that the Avs have and also all of the frustration, the Avs offense holds the advantage here because they are much better than Georgiev was, and Georgiev was the anchor weighing this team down. Whereas I think in the case of the Sharks, Blackwood is the reason that they were in some of these games, and I talked about it on our most recent episode, but he was covering up some of the flaws and making the penalty kill look a lot better than it actually was by making those consistent and incredible saves. And like you said, Georgiev, while he has been solid in his moments and good fundamentally in his position, he is not going to be extending out and flashing the glove through the mid-air and making a miraculous save that only certain goaltenders can make.
And it's tough because now I think those flaws that were covered up for are being exacerbated by Georgiev, because really he was bringing those out for the Avalanche. And again, I'm really not trying to spread hate his way, but I think you're seeing that, you know, those low goaltending numbers, that was not necessarily a team only issue. And that's a him issue. And it's not something that he couldn't potentially bounce back from. We've seen him have strong seasons in the past, but I just frankly don't think that this is his year, no matter who he's with.
I 100% agree. And we see this with Blackwood even. He has been with the Avalanche. This is his third start for the team. Correct. And it has only taken him 2 games to finally get his goals against average below 3. And that is purely because of playing on the Sharks, the number of shots he had to face. He still has a wonderful save percentage, but it took very little time to be able to actually improve his numbers once he had a fundamentally sound defense in front of him.
But I'd like to say for this period in general, I have to give your boys some credit. The Avalanche jumped out and were leading your boys by almost 9 shots through the first few minutes of the game. But as we closed out to the end of the period, if we take a quick look here, once the application loads, I mean, it's 12-10 on shots on goal. And I really have to give you guys some credit that they created a lot of wall battles, even if they weren't always coming out the victors, but they also were kind of swarming on the Avalanche. So it makes it hard for guys like Nathan MacKinnon to burst through if he has 4 people collapsing on him. But the risk you run there, obviously, is if Nathan MacKinnon's able to thread that pass, you're kind of at a loss for defense because, all of your players are focused on one guy.
You're absolutely right. And I think this is the recipe to keep the Sharks in the game tonight is when you are playing against a more skilled team, you have to become the more physical team. You have to make it tough. You have to make them earn the ice. You have to make them play along the boards. You have to make them play through checks. That is the only chance you have no matter what 2 teams are playing in the game. And I think there's no argument here, Corey, that the Avalanche are the more offensively skilled team and now arguably defensively skilled with Blackwood and net as well. I mean, I don't think it's even an argument. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. But again, trying to be fair to my own goaltender now. So I have to be a little bit kinder and manifest some positivity, even if I am completely holding on to my emotional support, little mini Sharks fan here. So, it is the recipe for success in this game, and we'll see if they can keep it up because it definitely brought them back into the period there. And at the end of the period, we had some temper starting to flare.
Yes. First and foremost, I just want to clarify for everyone, Dom does not have a child. He has an adorable giraffe in Sharks clothing, so it's very cute. It would look better in burgundy and blue, but I understand why it is dressed the way that it is. For one,
that's not what he said earlier. He talked about how beautiful the Sharks jerseys are.
Hey, I am always willing to recognize something that's beautiful, but that doesn't mean that I have to like it. But one thing I was going to say before I addressed your physicality comment is going back to one of your previous points. Unfortunately, the Avs were called out for having a flat game against Vancouver. I touched on how I felt about it, obviously, on last week's episode. And so, unfortunately, just like what Vancouver did to the Avalanche, I fear that the Sharks are victims of a team who is realizing that their play last time was kind of unacceptable, and now they need to come out and really show their coach, hey, we're here to play, we're here to win. And as I've already said, the Avalanche need to pick up points wherever they can. So having a poor outing against anybody is simply unacceptable. They need to play their maximum against any opponent.
And I think this is going to be the case for the rest of the season is without having some solid goaltending on the back end, and maybe this changes with Askarov that they can be more competitive, but again, we aren't there yet. The Sharks are going to be playing spoiler for the rest of the season. They do not have a lot to play for. If anything, it serves to their benefit to tank in the tank and try to get more draft picks and prospects for the future. However, we believe, and I know, Corey, you're with me on this, you should always play to the best of your ability and try to win those games. This is a professional sport. There's a level of honor and respect for each other to go out there and do your best and show up night in, night out. So I hope the Sharks continue to do so and do play spoiler in some of those games, even if it might not be tonight.
Absolutely, yes. Definitely not tonight. 2 things. 1, something very weird. The Avalanche have a back-to-back. They play the Sharks tonight and then the Ducks tomorrow. Earlier this week, the Jets had the exact same back-to-back. They played the Sharks and then the Ducks. So just a very weird coinky-dink that I found to be the case. But anyway, in reference to your physicality, you're very right. Jake Wallman getting a little testy with Casey Middlestat for no reason along the boards. Jake Wallman being a rat bastard, as I look Dom in the eyes as I say this. Man, this feels weird, everyone. I want you to know that. I usually can hide behind a computer screen, but not today. He's within hand's reach. I'm scared for my life, everyone.
Yeah, the jaws are here and the eyes are beady, just like a true shark while I'm watching Corey say this about Wallman. And you know what? Maybe it is a little bit ratty, but this is what the Sharks need. They needed some intensity, and while they were starting to fire back, near the end of the period there, the Avs had started to retake some momentum, and you need that type of intensity. You need that type of fight, especially going into the locker room at the end of a period. You want to get the team into it. You want to get the tempers up. That's part of the build. Wallman is having his best season overall as a professional this year so far with the Sharks and coming into his own and starting to step up more as a leader, even though I've had my qualms with him at points this season. So while it's not the most highly respected behavior, I do appreciate what he's trying to bring to the team, and maybe it'll help coming out of the locker room.
No, I could definitely understand it. You're trying to get a spark, but I mean, all credits to your to your guys, I mean, the Avalanche started to play a bit more free flowy. I think they're really just focused on generating that offense, and that's led to a couple breakdowns. And all the credit to Macklin Celebrini. He's got some strong hockey IQ at only 18 years old. It's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's so fast out there. He's so strong on the board, strong on the puck with his stick. So you know he's young. You don't expect him to have it all put together yet. He's only played 23 games. This is his 23rd game of this season of his professional career. You expect there to be some delay in that transition, even when he is that superstar of the future. It doesn't happen overnight. And he's really stepped up to the plate and continues to show up night in, night out with a point per game and only trailing Michkov among rookies for points this season.
And I think for me, it's about being in the right place. What made where they're showing the replay where Blackwood saved it on Will Smith. It was so unbelievably close. What a save by the Avalanche.
It was a really great save. Corey got to see what you did not see as my head dropped as they just showed the replay right before commercial, as I was like, oh, so close. It's great to see Will Smith back out there, but I want to see him on the score sheet as well.
But anyway, what I was going to say was what made Wayne Gretzky so great is he was always thinking 3 steps ahead, where he needed to be before he even needed to be there. And I think that's a quality that we're already seeing in Celebrini. There was multiple times and chances generated by him already, by him just being in the right location for his teammates. And I think he knew where the puck was going to be, so he made sure that he was there to receive it and try and make a play.
Yeah, that was when I mentioned to you, and you were right, he didn't actually out-skate Makar to the puck, but he had a step on Makar because he was headed to the right area. And so he was able to get in close to net and have a good opportunity and set up another one, and it just went wide.
So yeah, all that being said, I'm interested to see how the second period is going to come out, because you're right, the Avalanche were starting to take back that momentum there at the end of the first period. But I think it can be hard, even though they have the power play right now, to start a period with a power play, because you're starting to generate, and then when you get that kind of broken up, it can kind of just lead to some goobery results.
And Corey, when you do have a power play broken up and starting on it, it's almost harder, as you're saying, to get that momentum going. Do you think it can sometimes be a detriment to a team if the opposing team can start off a new period with a penalty kill?
I do, just because obviously everybody's coming out, they're fully rested, they're mentally reset, they're ready to go into it again. So I think it can go really either way, but I don't think it helps to have your momentum broken no matter what. It slows you down, and you have to build it back up.
And I think this initial face-off is going to be key, because the Sharks, once again this evening, have struggled to clear the zone on multiple times. They've been afraid to ice the puck.
Let's keep it up, boys. Yeah.
Obviously, no risk on the power play, but it is an issue where they need to actually start trying to clear the zone more. And when they lose those face-offs right away, they can get trapped in their zone a little bit. And seeing as the Avs were able to score in 30 seconds already on a power play, I'm legitimately concerned. I would agree with you that most often having that partial power play to start a period can actually become a disadvantage, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it right now.
I'd be scared too, Dom, but thankfully I don't have to be. Right. Anything else for period 1?
No, it looks like the game is getting ready to come back on here, but we will see you all after the second period.
We look forward to seeing you in period 2. Hopefully I'm still thrilled and Dom is still chilled. Sad. I don't want Dom to be sad, but I do want my team to win. All right, everybody. We'll see you in period. Son of a fucking bitch. Well, we've had quite the 180 from period 1 to period 2, haven't we, Dom?
Oh, it has been an amazing 180, and just like we talked about, that power play kill to start the period clearly set the tone in the Sharks' favor.
Yeah, the Sharks have very clearly stolen the momentum for period 2, and the Avalanche have once again given another first to a player, with Grundstrom getting his first of the season. It's just a complete turnaround. It was poor defense goes in, and now the Avalanche are trailing somehow. And it's, again, not even on Blackwood. It's just poor defensive play. The Sharks have nothing but open ice to skate through. They're able to set up plays. They're getting behind the Avalanche D. It's just not good. It's sloppy. The guys aren't looking to where they're passing. they're just kind of throwing it. There was one point where they threw it back to their own inner slot. Thank God no Shark was sitting there. Although the Sharks right now just seem to be everywhere the Avalanche don't want them to be, and the Avalanche are just nowhere that they need to be.
Well, because I haven't gotten in my daily dad joke pun yet, the Sharks can sense there's blood in the water, and they have been circling. And yes, they are good at playing in these ugly, sloppy games because they're used to it. I don't know how many times I've seen the Sharks throw it into their own defensive slot. So trust me, Corey, I actually can understand and empathize with you in this moment. But I also need to celebrate the fact that your team is losing because of Grundstrom getting his first goal of the season. And you are absolutely right. We can't blame Mackenzie Blackwood for that one. He had the perfect right pad kick save, sending it out to the corner where he's supposed to, except there was no Avalanche player there holding the post and a wide open net. And yeah, I mean, the sloppiness continued with Eklund being able to score a second goal off a very unique series of events that was quite chaotic. And I think we agree that there was a possible high stick playing the puck at one point in the play, but unfortunately not enough to overturn it for your boys anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you can necessarily call that one a goober goal because he did legitimately receive the pass and stick it in. I think you can call all the events leading up to it a goober goal with the fact that it gets played with the high stick, which I think was a valid challenge. And, you know, thankfully the boys believed in their PK enough and it performed admirably as it has the last several games, last few weeks. So it's good to see that the PK is still operating at that high level, especially now with solid goaltending behind it. But, it's a crazy play, knocked down with the high stick, lands on, whomever's skate. He spins around and it lands perfectly on, who was it?
It was Cody Ceci, right in the middle.
I'm saying who shot it in. Was it Granlund? I think
it was William Eklund.
William Eklund. It lands perfectly on William Eklund's stick for a perfect just whip right into the back of the net.
Well, and I will say this too. It did look like a high stick when Corey and I were watching this live prior to the goal going in. I literally said the words, the Sharks can't touch it because it's going to give a whistle. It did look like a high stick, and sometimes there's not enough conclusive evidence to overturn. I do want to give some credit to William Eklund, what set up that play, because at his own defensive blue line, he actually checked the puck away and won the battle to get to it first and take it all the way deep into the Avs zone and set up the whole series of events. It also set up Wenberg with a great chance in front. He wasn't able to convert, but the Sharks were able to hold that extensive zone time like you mentioned, Corey.
All I can say is thank God for Mackenzie Blackwood, because now the Avalanche are being outshot. The Sharks are just, I hate to say it, taking advantage of the fact that the Avalanche are, playing like the Sharks, and that they are playing incredibly sloppy, non-defensive minded hockey, and they can't even get any offense going. The Avs get a gift in a power play towards the end of the period, but we just roll right back into nothing being able to be done with it. Credit to the Sharks PK, which of course Dom says last week is terrible. We get, the Stanley Cup winning defense here from the Sharks on this PK. The Avalanche couldn't even get set up in their zone. And once again, I just think it's that element of predictability that's killing them right now.
And we did see this with the Sharks power play as well. There is a lot of passing going on by both teams. Not enough chances are making the net. And we are seeing that there's a fear for a block shot or a bad rebound, and a 2-on-1 opportunity is the best I can guess. Otherwise, why would you not throw the puck at the net? That's what I see. But you're absolutely correct. If the Sharks have any chance to win this game, and quite honestly, many games this season, they will have to win ugly and take advantage of some of these lucky bounces of getting a call go their way in regards to that Eklund possible. I mean, it was a legitimate playing a puck with a high stick, I believe. I think there's a reasonable reason to be upset there. So, the Sharks have to capitalize, though. When the games are ugly and their opponent plays down to them, that gives them an opportunity, and they have to take it.
And I think this has been one of the Avalanche's biggest weaknesses for the last, several years, even in the Cup winning year, that they're just playing down to the level of their opponents. No offense. But, right now, the Sharks are just skating through open ice, and the Avalanche just look scattered at the moment. They're not getting in the way. The Sharks are skating right down the middle of the ice. Nothing is being contested, and there's no support for any actions that the Avalanche are trying to do. If you're going to pass a puck, make sure you're looking where it's going. Make sure you know your guy's going to be there. And instead, they're just throwing it right to the jerseys in black. It's ridiculous.
And on the flip side, when you do see some of these insane backhand passes, these no-look passes that Celebrini has been able to pull off with some great instincts on where his teammates are on the ice, and even as he's being cut towards the boards and having his face right up against the glass, still finding a way to make it work, it does make the Avs' inability to do the same look a little bit worse. But really quickly, while I'm talking about MacLeod, how about his ankles in that game? I know he took a couple Avs ankles and he was just cutting back and forth all over the ice. It was quite impressive to watch.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, that's because you were looking at your phone depressed while the Sharks were up 2-1. But
I
it's
was
okay.
taking notes, Tom.
I was watching it intently, and trust me, everyone, you have not seen someone skate like MacLeod Celebrini does. The stop, start, the back and forth. I don't know how his ankles can handle it. My ankles could never handle that as an 18-year-old, let alone today. So props to him.
Yes, him along with the rest of his team are, to their credit, playing very smart hockey right now and just taking advantage of all the ice that the Avalanche are getting them. Not only that, but the tank in San Jose has come to life through the first period. The fans were, pretty quiet, and now they are just out there screaming support for their franchise. So yay them, I guess.
And I do need to take a moment to compliment Georgiev in that period, because it was a rough start to the game with 1 goal on 1 shot, but that means he has made 17 consecutive saves, if not more, if we'd have to double check the overall shot on goal count. But he made some great stops on some 2-on-1 opportunities, flashing the glove. And I mean, Corey, you heard me. I was saying, oh no, as soon as the Avs were starting on a 2-on-1 rush, and Georgiev decided to step up big.
I think it's a rightful oh no. I mean, when Mikko Rantanen's coming towards the net on a 2-on-1 against anybody, it's an oh no. I think that's a recognized talent, but I joked with Dom. Now Georgiev wants to make the save. It's admittedly frustrating right now because the Avalanche have the ability to play much better than this. I really wish I could tell you what has changed between the first period and the second period. The Avs came out with a lot of zip, a lot of gusto, and a lot of, offensive mindset, which is fine. A couple mistakes here and there. But now, not only do they not have offense, but they don't have defense either. And it's just ugly, ugly hockey. It's not even a matter of looking flat like they did against Vancouver. They just look bad. And it's not fun to say that, but it's just not good right now. It's just sloppy hockey. It's not the good kind of sloppy. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
And I do think when we talk about sloppy, that almost favors the Sharks, having played with a lot of turnovers throughout this year, having lost the puck in the neutral zone a lot, or just having to take advantage of those, let's call it what it is, cheap opportunities to get the puck when you're not necessarily playing great defense. So I do think when the Avs are playing down to the Sharks, this sloppy, opportunistic play is going to favor San Jose. And it was overall, though, the Sharks did bring much more energy in the period. They had a lot more jump and had woken up into the game. I am concerned, though, because the track record in the third period recently has not been good for the Sharks, getting outshot 6-3 in their last 3 games in the third period. So, Corey, do you think you can overwrite or erase a 1-goal deficit?
If you're the Avalanche, who erased a 4-goal deficit by scoring 5 straight against Buffalo, yes, I fucking do. It's been frustrating lately because it feels like even with only a 1-goal deficit, the Avalanche have had a hard time erasing it, but I think they have a good understanding of what needs to happen right now. These are still some of the best players in the world. And, one of the things that happened during this period is both teams were just, as Dom kind of mentioned, they're both just passing and turning it over to each other constantly. And I don't know if the Avs know, but they do need to pass the puck to each other. And if you're not able to pass it to each other, because credit where credit's due to the Sharks, they're getting in the way. You just need to drive the net. You have the speed. You can get around these players. They've shown it multiple times as the game has gone on. So if you're going to score on Georgiev, you should know how to score on Georgiev. You need to use that to your advantage and get around the Sharks D and get back there and just fucking fire it. Because a stupid one will go on Georgiev. The stupid one's always going on Georgiev. So use that.
And Corey, that's exactly what I'm afraid of in period 3, because with the recent struggles that the Sharks have had with finishing games, the fact that they were getting lucky, getting good breaks, and it was sloppy. Yes, they had more jump. Yes, they were getting in the way and have out-blocked the Avalanche. I think it's now, at the end of the first period, it was 10-1. I'm sure it's much larger than that now. So it is something where the Sharks are putting their body in the way, but they're still not playing well and have gotten lucky bounces. So I by no means feel comfortable going into this third period, especially knowing that Mackenzie Blackwood is still, I've said it time and time again, one of the best, if not the best, third period goalie in the league.
This is what I get for talking shit, everybody. I never do it, but Dom can tell you when we weren't recording, I maybe talked a little bit of trash, and this is just what I get. That's my punishment for that. And to Dominic and the hockey gods, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anybody can win any given day. I truly believe that, and that's what I always say. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. I will say this, Dom. We discussed it while we were watching, that this game has gone by disturbingly fast.
It really has, and even if it's been 2 hours since the original coverage
doesn't
started,
feel that way.
It doesn't feel that way, and that is factoring in, obviously, some commercials. We are already almost through the second intermission here. There's not been many stoppages of play. The power plays themselves have not had many stoppages for faceoffs. It's really been that turnover-prone game, so you're not having many goalie stops. You're not having many pucks out of play. It's just getting back and forth, stuck in the neutral zone in between the blue lines.
Yeah, they're showing our stats through the second period, and it looks like the Sharks really are, leading in all categories right now. So they really took their mistakes from the first and corrected upon them in the second, although you're very right. It's by all means not perfect play, so... Oh my goodness! Oh, what just happened? I'm fine.
he just had a moment of feeling,
God,
recalling that feeling of being an Avs fan in the second period.
Anyway, I always believe in this team. So as grumpy as this is how it is, everybody. This is why I always wait a week before we record, or this is what you get. Just an emotional mess. But I'll attribute the fact that it's going by so fast to all of our great conversations we've been having since we finally get to be with each other. Great conversations with Paige. This has been a great time, despite how my team has been playing up to this point.
Oh, I absolutely agree, Corey, and it's been great having you here. And for those who don't know, this is the first time we've actually seen each other in person for a little while now.
A couple years at least.
Yeah, it has been a good amount of time, and so it's been great to actually be here in the same place and get to record live together for the first time. But yeah, absolutely. It was the similar thing. While your second period was the depressing, I was certainly depressed, Dom, in period 1. And so that's where I'm scared it can turn on a head that quickly, especially when the third period has not been the Sharks' period. So, and as far as trash talk goes, I think even when you think you're trash talking, Corey, it's not that much bad trash talk at all. Like, I didn't even realize you thought you trash talked. I don't know which one you're talking about here. So, well, you're all good, bro.
If the Avalanche can do anything, it's turning a game on its head in an instant. And I mean, that's just the nature of hockey in general. So we'll definitely see how our emotions are going into the third period. But this is all I got to say for this one. I don't want to say anymore.
Well, with that in mind, we will leave you here and we will come back after the game to give our final recap. And one of us will be very happy and the other one probably not so much. But until then, enjoy swimming in the tank, folks.
Once again, we have hit a 180. Oh, let's see the moment of the game. Kiwi shot. Oh, God, my phone is on. Oh, gosh, nobody needs to hear that. Well, Dom, I like what you shared with me right before we hit go. So please read to me read to the folks what you just read to me.
Yeah, so obviously today was up and down with a range of emotions, and the third period was that same effect itself. At the start of the period, my first note was Georgiev is trying to remake himself and take his own revenge against the Avalanche. He has made some great saves on the best Colorado opportunities, so that covered about the first 5 minutes of the third period. By the end, Georgiev just abandoned the Sharks and went to the bench in the face of rushing Avalanche players with 3 minutes left, nearly allowing an empty net goal if it wasn't for Celebrini. So full range of Georgiev being possibly serviceable to absolutely fucking horrible.
I skipping ahead to the end of the period, I have to just say it was genuinely one of the strangest things I have ever seen. The puck goes out of the Avalanche's D zone, and Taves is skating after it, but there's a Sharks player who gets to it first. So Taves is doing battle with the Sharks player into the Sharks zone, and then you just see Georgiev skating by to the bench as Taves continues to battle, and it just almost is like Georgiev is saying, "Oh, excuse me, I'm trying to go to the bench, thanks." To your guys' credit, though, the Avalanche did not score an empty net goal. The Sharks, for the final 2 minutes of the game, really did put the pressure on. Mackenzie Blackwood had to make several more stellar saves throughout the evening, but I have to agree that if the goaltending roles were reversed, I'm pretty sure the scores would have been the other way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we said that before hopping on for the third period here, and it absolutely would have been because as I learned from your friend, Georgiev is in fact Forgiev, and continues to give up 4 goals no matter what jersey he wears. Going back to it, though, what are you doing exiting your net and just skating forward? It's not just that they were battling for the puck. They were inside the blue line.
Yeah, they're in the...
It is in a shooting range. What are you doing?
That's why I was so confused.
Oh, my God. And it wasn't just the mental lapse or I don't know what to call that, but the glove hand was just awful to finish out the back half of that period. And I know we'll get to it, Corey, but pain is all I feel right now. Pain and depression. So we are back to where we started 1 minute into this game.
So my note going into this period was the mentality needs to be smash everything that moves. You want the puck on your stick. If San Jose has it, take it away. And I feel ultimately the Avalanche did this. Did they lay the body as much? No, but they did a much better job, even looking at some of the replays as they go here, just keeping the pucks on their own sticks. And when they were passing with purpose. They made sure the pucks were getting to where they wanted them to go. And I mean, there was a power play that the Avalanche thankfully converted on. It was a textbook McKinnon to Rantanen play, but it was so clean because McKinnon was able to feed it through the center ice, right through, or the center slot, I should say, right through multiple Sharks bodies. It was a perfect feed so Rantanen could he could dish to Rantanen and Rantanen could score. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing you need to do when everybody's getting in the way. You need to pass with purpose and intention. You can't just be throwing it to throw it. And the Avalanche really cleaned that up. And then whenever the Sharks had the puck, the Avalanche made sure that they got it back.
Yeah, and we do need to talk about that McKinnon pass because he threw it across the full width, of the ice in the offensive zone through all four, threading the needle of all four Sharks power play killers there, or penalty killers, So it was a perfect pass, and to be fair, the shot Rantanen ripped home. Georgiev had zero chance. I'm not going to blame him for that one. I'm just going to blame him for everything else.
99% of goaltenders have no chance.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Georgiev for everything else that went wrong in that third period, though, because it was not pretty to watch.
And I mean, the Avalanche certainly had their lapses as well, and I think we were both kind of talking about it. The penalties in this period for both teams were a little ridiculous. I think the first one on Gaudreau, that was absolutely a hold. You could definitely argue that the trip on Wenberg by Nichushkin was a trip, but there was a couple in there that they called that were just a little questionable. For example, a hold on Lehkonen where Lehkonen doesn't even grab hold of the man that they're accusing him of holding.
Yeah, there were multiple questionable penalties. In fact, 4 in a row. So after the game going very quickly through the first two periods, there were constant stoppages basically every 2 minutes for the middle part of the period, anything from like 12 minutes all the way to the 6 minute mark right around there. There was just power play after power play for one team or the other. It was the refs wanted their time in the spotlight, including even with dropping the puck sometimes. They were just delaying for no reason. We talked about it last time, but we need some improvement of the overall reffing in the NHL looking ahead to next year.
Yeah, it's tough to say because, again, there's always human error that you can say. But, I mean, you have 4 guys on the ice that can see what's going on. If you aren't in a good position, get yourself in a good position. I don't really even know what to say, but you're right. The Avalanche, get a power play, they score on it, and then almost immediately after are penalized themselves. They kill that penalty and then are penalized immediately after once again. And I understand if there's egregious things, you got to make the call, but there are some things that are borderline where at that point it's like, just let them play the game.
And you see that thing as well where the refs felt the need to possibly balance, because as soon as the Sharks finished that second power play, the Avs were right back on the power play again themselves. And then right when that one was done, guess what happened, everyone? That's right. The Sharks went on yet another power play in this period. And to be fair, I have to say the Sharks had a very strong power play throughout this period. It was not the power play that was pass heavy that we saw in the first. Corey, I know you and I both felt there were multiple times in this period that a goal was imminent for the Sharks, including hit posts, hit the side of Mackenzie Blackwood's mask. I mean, everything but the back of the net.
For those of you who can't see me, I am very much nodding my head in agreement with Dom. Right, Dom? Holds a gun. No. No, but truly, it's true. Your guys were very aggressive on their power play, and frankly, that's where I also have to give the Avs their flowers. Is the penalty kill has looked fantastic recently, despite the Sharks getting some good chances. That's where I'm really happy with the Avalanche, is they're not allowing them to convert, but that also comes down to just improved goaltending. Your goaltender, we've said it this episode, we've said it again and again, is your best penalty killer. Mackenzie Blackwood proved that. I mean, Keaton Middleton at the end of the game hugged him fully, and my gosh, the man deserved it.
And you know what? When we're talking about the questionable ref calling and also how great Mackenzie Blackwood was, I just have to say I think he should be wearing black and white stripes like the cartoons of old, because he committed robbery so many times from the Sharks tonight. So many robberies. The Sharks could have easily, again, if you put Georgiev in that net, the Sharks score 5 tonight. And that's not even, that is lowballing it.
Yeah. I mean, the Sharks, to their credit, still played a really, really good game. I mean, without question, they had a good game. The second period was all theirs. You can say that with total certainty. And they never gave up. They really did not quit at any point during this contest, even when they ended up going down. And I think that's one of their biggest weaknesses as of late that we've identified. And we've seen it in action again here tonight. It's just their third period finishing power, and I think it's something we talked about earlier in the season, is just one of their weakest qualities. But I think that's something that we see with these rebuilding teams, is it's just hard for them to close out games even when they have the lead. I think Buffalo is genuinely the best example of this. Is they have the ability to get the lead and play, they just can't hold it.
Yeah, absolutely, Corey. And this has been a pattern for multiple games now, because this is not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5. The 5th consecutive game that the Sharks have conceded at least 2 goals in the third period. Tonight, it ended up being 3, but it's unacceptable, because even though they finish with more shots on goal and continue to keep up the pressure, it really doesn't matter if they're conceding on the back end. If they can't hold on to the lead, when, again, they came into this period with a lead, a 1-goal lead for yet another game, and managed to blow it.
And, not to say that this is the only reason, but the Avalanche definitely came out with a lot of energy in this third period. And he was on our Players of the Week last week, and my goodness, he's quickly making his way back to the list, and that's Yoel Kiviranta, who netted 2 tonight, including the game winner. The man is just constantly on a mission to cause havoc, to cause some chaos, and tonight he was rewarded with some goals. He's not somebody who scores often, but when he does score, it's always meaningful and impactful. It's never a garbage time goal. It's never just an extra tally to add on to a lead. No, the man scores to win games.
And there is that, when the Sharks are not scoring to win games, not scoring in the third period, it makes what Kiviranta is doing even more apparent and visible, and it should be recognized. It should be complimented. I do have to say, one of those goals is possibly more on Georgiev. We both talked about it, Corey, but it looked like that shot was going a little wide, and it clipped a piece of Georgiev's glove and then went in. So when we talked about the inevitable cheap goal and the inevitable 4th goal, they seem to happen at the exact same time. And that was right after the final Sharks power play of the period concluded.
That's correct. Nichushkin comes out of the box. Logan O'Connor's able to get a great takeaway and speed it up the ice. They get a nice rush chance, odd man rush back up, and Kiwi just nets it. we'll definitely see in the future when we go back and look at this goal, because I do want to see if it really was going wide. Just on initial look through, it did look like the goal was going a little wide and it just redirects off Georgiev's glove, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe if he doesn't make the attempt, it goes in anyway. But I mean, man, poor Georgie. I really have to say that. I mean, the man does not deserve to be bullied as much as he does, but you have to string together some strong performances. And, I'm thankful that the Avalanche won tonight. And that is definitely due partially to the great play of Mackenzie Blackwood. And one thing I wanted to say is that ever since the Avs got new goaltending, they have let more shots through, and they need to clean that up. Yeah, Mackenzie Blackwood's going to make the saves. That's clearly been demonstrated tonight. But the Avalanche were the fourth best, shot limiting team in the league, and they need to continue to be that way. I don't know why all of a sudden more have been getting through, like 30 plus a game, but it needs to be no more 30 plus a game.
Well, you're absolutely correct. But if anybody's going to be on the back end, you definitely want that to be Blackwood, and he is used to it from his time in San Jose. As far as Georgiev is concerned, and you're right, we don't want to be hard on Georgie. And like I said, I started the third period singing his praises, especially during the second period, and quite frankly, even the first period. The first goal on the first shot, sometimes a bad luck play happens, but otherwise he locked it down for 2 whole periods of the game, really. And it was just this third period where he has fallen apart, and it was disappointing and borderline embarrassing to watch. So Corey, I would just ask, can the Avalanche please bring him back to Colorado when they fly home from this road trip?
No. As we've said, you can't have 40 minutes of brilliance. You need to have 60 minutes of brilliance. And I mean, as we said, we don't criticize Georgiev as a person, but we do criticize poor play. And, not all of those are on him. We're rewatching the Avalanche's power play goals. McKinnon, wow, he really did feed that through 4 Sharks players. That's incredible.
Right through the middle of all 4.
Literally
Rantanen
all 4
ripped
of
it.
them.
There was not even a shot.
Yeah,
there.
not even a chance. So, I mean, great play all around from that. So, I mean, there's really no chance. The thing you would hope for from the Sharks end is you get a stick in the lane, but McKinnon's a shifty man. Even if you think you know what he's going to do something else, and he has the eyes to see that space, and Mikko's not going to miss that. So that's really all I can say to that. But, all I could say, Dom, is go get him next time. But we needed those 2 points tonight. We were falling out of the wild card race, so we needed them tonight. We need them tomorrow.
Well, and I'm happy for you, man, because again, this is not a season where the Sharks are going to win, and it was still a fun time watching the game together and being able to bring this analysis to you live and in the moment and with all the raw emotions, because I mean, I think everyone was able to hear the difference in how much excitement I was able to bring in the second period and how much the low was, and that's a different experience that we can bring everyone tonight.
Dom is so sad right now, everyone. Please send W Dom in the comments section. We need to pick him back up. He's going through it right now. But nonetheless, Dom, this was a genuine treat. This was so fun to do. I hope we get to do it again in the future. What would be great is if we get to live broadcast a playoff game or something like that. That'd be so fun. But this was a great time. I really had a good time. Win or lose, I had a good time.
Yeah, I had the same way, and I'm glad to, again, finally see you for the first time in a couple years as well in person. Like, we might talk together and bring this to you online, but this has been really great for us to be able to spend that quality time and watch some hockey together like we used to. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity, and it was an enjoyable and a good game overall to watch. Both teams had over 30 shots on goal. It was exciting.
It was never a boring game at any point, that is for sure. Oh, we got a lot of good names for the tandem here.
The Forest,
the Wood Warriors, Woody and Buzz, the Carpenters. Oh, there's a couple here.
Timber Tandem. I like that one.
Wood Squared. Would you like to try again? Oh man, this is some of these
Guardians of the Woods or of the Posts, depending on what you prefer.
Oh, there's more here. Okay, hold on. 2x4, chairman of the board,
the Neighborhood Watch,
New Jersey Driftwood Timber Twins, Mac and Wheezy. Oh, man.
Uh,
Oh, well, these were great. Well, everybody, the Avalanche caught the dub tonight, hoping they can do another one against the other California team tomorrow, which I'm sure would make Dom happy because he likes it when the other California teams lose.
yeah, please allow us to stay ahead of at least one team, although I'm pretty sure they passed us last night. So the Sharks are unfortunately at the bottom of the Pacific yet again. All I can root for is poor luck to Nashville, I guess, at this point.
Well, I don't think you need to root for that. Nashville will bring it all themselves. They lost again to the Penguins in overtime tonight, but I think that's about all I got, other than the fact that just the Avs came out with a lot of energy in this third period. They corrected on what went wrong in the second quite well, and they used it to get 3 unanswered and win the game.
Yeah, they were the better team. I don't think there's any doubt that they have the better talent. We've talked about it before. The Avs are in win now, and I like to say the Sharks are in win soon. Keep an eye out next year, and as we get further and further and can build this team, especially once Askarov is in net. But ultimately, the better team won the game tonight and showed up in the big moments that mattered. So I think overall it went probably as we both expected coming into the night.
I will say, though, your guys had me worried, and all the credit to your boys, man. They put up one hell of a fight. This was not, the easy win that it would have been of years past. The Sharks played, and they played with fire. You have some great young talent on this roster who has a lot of really strong ability. These guys are the Avalanche of the future, and I can see them competing for those playoff positions very, very soon.
And I look forward to the opportunity we have when the two teams might play each other in the playoffs here.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully the Avalanche can rewrite some history there, as, well, the Sharks always seem to get the better of them. So we'll definitely have to see. But otherwise, I think I'm ready to pass it back to future. I guess it's now present Corey and Dom. We're past Corey and Dom, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, indeed. I mean, the longer we drag this on, everything we've said before becomes the past. So, I have no other notes other than, apparently Corey did give a funny note with the series of questionable penalties.
Oh, yeah.
There was one for holding the stick.
Yes, Dom. How often do you see a holding the stick penalty?
Well, unfortunately, Corey, I do seem to see about one per Sharks game, and it doesn't seem to be whether it's the Sharks or their opponents. I don't know what's happening or what's going on with the refs there, but it's something we see a lot more frequently than you might expect.
Is that like miles per hour holding the sticks per Sharks game?
Yeah, I mean, 1 mile per hour is pretty dang slow, but we have more holding the sticks per Sharks game than the Sharks have power play goals. So it's a rough place to be in San Jose right now, but keep your heads up, keep your chin up, Sharks fans. We will be back, and this team still has a lot of fight in it, so it's fun to watch the games.
Absolutely. They can definitely win on any given night, and I fervently believe that. But for now, present Corey and Dom, we're going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, past Corey and Dom. We greatly appreciate your contributions to this episode and saving Dom and I an hour tonight. It is definitely very kind of you. We'll jump right into it, everyone. That's right, it's back, baby. The good, the bad, and the Avalanche. One of my favorite ways to talk about multiple games as a whole, and to me, a more unique way to look at the Avalanche and how the heck it's going across the board. So let's just jump right into it. And to be perfectly transparent, I don't think this is fully complete. I have my notes from all the other games, so I might insert a couple other things after we get done with our analysis here, but we'll kind of see how we're faring. But first and foremost, the good. So, yep, I'm here. I'm gonna cut that out. All right. Okay. So. Okay. Oh my goodness.
You good?
Yep, I'm good. Okay. Everyone, first periods are good again. What I wanted to prepare was goalie and first period stats and how they have changed once we've obtained our new goaltending tandem. But bless you to Arif Dean, he did it for me. And it was honestly really kind of him because it just saves me the work of having to do it. So thank you, Arif. I greatly appreciate your contributions, even though you didn't know that you were doing it. So I will just kind of read verbatim, apologies for reading here, what Arif had said. So the simple stats, Mackenzie Blackwood in 4 starts has surrendered exactly 2 goals in each game. He has a glowing .931 save percentage, Scott Wedgwood's gone 4-2-0, making 5 starts in a relief appearance. He's given up 11 goals in just over 5.5 games, meaning he's also hovering around 2 goals a game, and he has a .932 save percentage. And they've been consistent. And who even knew that that'd be a word that we would ever say? But Dom, what was the key for all goaltenders that we said over and over again? What's the word, Dom?
Well, other than them having wood in their name, it's consistency, Corey. Because apparently we've learned about the wood recently.
That's right. It's consistency. All of the best goaltenders are consistent. And my gosh, you're lucky if you get one that's consistent. And right now we have 2. And it's genuinely just a delight because they both have chemistry. They're both so nice. If anybody has not seen Scott Wedgwood talk about his next helmet that he has, which features his 2 dogs and his 9-month-old daughter painted as baby Peach, it is the most wholesome thing ever. I love Scott Wedgwood. I call him Wedge Dad now because he gushes about his family and he just warms my heart.
Oh, that really is amazing.
He is, but he says he has a second helmet in production that's like Game of Thrones themed that has like a big ice wall on it, and there's going to be a burgundy and blue dragon. And he kept saying maroon, which was peeving me off silently. I was like, Scott, it's burgundy. We wear burgundy. Okay. But that's neither here nor there.
Everybody sees colors differently, so maybe to him it looks maroon.
We're called the burgundy and blue. Come on, Scott. It's in the name. It's okay. I forgive him. But to go on here, the first period, to quote, the first period issues the Avalanche had before they got here compared to now are night and day. It's well documented that the Avs have been one of the worst first period teams all season. In the first month, it felt like 2 or 3 goals were scored on them each game before the first intermission. But now it's completely flipped on a dime now. The 45 goals Colorado has surrendered in the first 20 minutes is second last in the NHL, trailing only the San Jose Sharks at 46. There you go, Dom. Interesting connection there.
Yikes. Pain. I am pain.
Here's this for you. Blackwood and Wedgwood, the lumberyard, have only given up 4 in their 9 combined starts. Wedgwood in 5 starts has 2 first period goals against, and Blackwood in 4 starts is also at 2. So how different is it? To put it into perspective, Alexander Georgiev and Justus Onanen combined to allow 41 goals in the opening period in 27 starts. The Avs basically started each game knowing that an average of 1.5 goals would get past the goalie before the second period began. That is truly insane. I will pause for reaction.
Big yikes. Big yikes. That's bad. That's really bad.
So, I mean, gosh, as strong as a Georgiev of a defender that I was, you can't deny that. And you're seeing it now that clearly it's not all the defense's fault because the Avalanche are doing really good in first periods now. And frankly, across the entirety of games, considering neither Scott Wedgwood nor Mackenzie Blackwood have given up any more than 2 goals per game. So what else can you really say there? Other than, yeah, the reason the Avalanche were losing a lot of the winnable games was because of goaltending. When you're knowing that you're going into a game, as Arif says here, immediately knowing you'll be down by 1.5 goals, sometimes more before a first period is even over, that has to be mentally defeating.
Well, yeah, you also are just statistically making it harder on yourself. Imagine starting every game down, let's say, 1 or 2 goals and only having 40 minutes to make up the difference, if that's realistically by the end of the first period what the stat is. So that's, that's not good.
Yeah, no, not one bit. But to the benefit of everyone, as for full team save percentage, The Avs are now 4th in the NHL and 1st in the Western Conference since Georgiev was shipped to San Jose. They have a .924 save percentage in 8 games, scoring 30 goals, but only giving up 17, including an empty netter in Vancouver. No team has more goals than Colorado in that span, and no one is better than the Avs at +13 goal differential.
Well, there you go.
And
that says it all right there.
Yeah, and to expand upon it a little more, to put it into perspective for you, Dom, in October and November, the Avalanche were 32nd in the NHL in team save percentage. 32nd, dead last. After making the switch, they jumped up to 6th, and in the month of December have the best team save percentage in the NHL. That's above Winnipeg. That's above a team with arguably the best goaltending tandem right now, the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is utterly remarkable.
They really are both remarkable.
So, Dom, thank you for Mackenzie Blackwood. My God, I love him. And I think Avalanche fans love him a lot too.
Yeah, I do miss him, and I'm glad to hear and glad to see from what I have seen how much love they've shown to Mackenzie Blackwood, because he really is a good person, like you said, so he deserves all of that love that he receives in return.
Absolutely. Well, finally, a quote from Jared Bednar. It is, quote, "If you look at some of the games, we haven't been great in the first period, even since the goalie switch. But they've just been playing really, really well," Bednar says of his new goalies. "They're just giving us a chance to find our legs sometimes, which is great." And to expand upon what Jared Bednar is saying here, he's right. And I talk about it a lot in some of my overall game analysis, that the Avalanche just had a slow start in a lot of their games. Seattle, they really picked it up. But against Utah, against the Sharks, against Anaheim, they just really could not get going in those games. But oh, yes, don't forget Vancouver and Nashville as well. Those were both also very slow starts. So, I mean, for whatever reason, they've been slow getting out of the gate. But when you have solid goaltending behind you, it just gives us a chance to win every game. And for that, I'm honestly really thankful. Well, with that in mind, I did want to share some other stats from the hockey writers. And by the way, everybody, I will link these articles in the description of this episode. So I just wanted to read what some of the hockey writers said, maybe. Let me see what I'd like to include here. Yep, we're going to get to that in a little bit. So despite lengthy injury list, and we'll talk about injuries here in a bit, the Avalanche rank 8th in the Western Conference with a .583 points percentage. What were once massive gaps atop both the division and the conference have dwindled to fewer than 10 points, though most teams ahead of the Avalanche have at least one game in hand. Since the Avalanche lost their 4th consecutive game to start the season on October 16th, they have flipped a switch and gone 21-11, ranking 6th in the NHL by points percentage over that time. They have also won 16 of their last 25, 9 of their last 15, and 8 of their last 11. The rest of the league had their chance to put the Avalanche away for good, and now they faced a monster awakening from hibernation, to which they go on to say that the Avalanche superstars are firing on all cylinders, which is certainly the case. If the Avalanche are going to win the 2025 Stanley Cup, they will do so on the backs of their resident superstars, Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, and Mikko Rantanen. MacKinnon appears energized by his Hart Trophy win last season and has responded with a league-leading 57 points in 36 games. That scoring pace puts him on track to hit 130 points for the campaign and likely earns him a 5th Hart Trophy nomination at the end of the season. And of course, Makar is going insane and is leading in points per game, goals, assists, and points. And it's once again a race between Makar and Hughes. And to Hughes' credit, I've been seeing a lot of, info on him lately. Definitely an amazing defenseman. And I want everybody to know, I don't hate Quinn Hughes. He annoys the piss out of me because he's so good. And of course, I just want Cale to stand atop the defenseman kingdom because I'm a homer like that. But I don't ever deny that Quinn Hughes is an exceptional player and probably Vancouver's best player. There's a reason that he's the captain. He leads by example every game.
Yeah, and he's certainly They led by example in the game that the Sharks played against Vancouver.
So yes.
Or did I just mess that up?
What? No, you didn't mess anything up. What are you talking about, man?
I'm trying to remember who were the stars of the Vancouver game.
It was Quinn Hughes. I do think you are correct there.
Yeah, I don't know if he ended up on the scoreboard, but he just always has such a big impact on the game, even if he's not on the scoreboard. He's just really fast and really always in a good position and brings a lot of threat to the offense. Great passing.
Yep. And another thing here is Mikko Rantanen is the the team lead for goals. He has 33 assists, and he's tied for second in points. The Colorado, the first and second points leaders. And they are the only team, the Avs are the only team, with at least 3 skaters who have scored 40 or more points this season. So, I mean, not only are the stars scoring, but as we'll get into, there are depth players showing up for this Avalanche team. And this is an injured Avalanche team. You cannot tell me that if we ever get healthy, God willing, that this team will not just be insane. Insane! Maybe I'm insane, everyone. Maybe
you're not insane, and I think the team already is insane. Ever since you've added the lumber yard, as you like to call it, the tree house, whatever other, the lords of wall of wood. That was your weakest part, and like you said, you've won a bunch of games recently. We talked about by the Christmas break, you guys would be a playoff team, and that has been the case. And it's only going to keep going from here. They're just catching up, making up the ground they lost previously. Imagine where they can finish by season's end and go into the playoffs in a strong position.
Absolutely. And frankly, this article takes a few more of my talking points that I wrote up, so I'm not going to share them because I'll just share them myself because I talk about them here in a little bit. But if you want to go, excuse me, everyone, check out that article yourself, please do. But to move right along, the Avalanche are not only scoring at 5-on-5, they are scoring on the power play, and they are killing penalties. The Avalanche have scored 4 power play goals in their last 3 games on 12 opportunities, so that's a 33.33%, which is fantastic, but they've only allowed 1 power play goal on 23 opponent opportunities. If I understood how to read the stats on StatMuse correctly, it's a little weird because it's like there's penalties, but then there's also opponent power play opportunities, which to me, I think the difference is like a full power play opportunity as an opponent, I think it's like a full 2 minutes, whereas sometimes like, both teams get penalized at the same time. So that's not like a full power play opportunity. Do you think I have that correct? That sounds correct to me.
I mean, I would say so. I do think you got that correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's so funny to me that I was going to go out of my way to make like, why is the Avalanche's power play so bad? Why is it struggling so much? And it's not perfect by all means. Not all of their attempts are looking great. And I think I'd still like to look at it. But this has happened now multiple times this season where I'll say, oh yeah, the Avalanche are having issues with this thing. And then literally as I'm preparing to talk about it on next week's episode, they'll somehow fix it. And then I'm like, okay, well, I guess fuck me. Why would I even bother talking about it? Now they go and fix it. Do you think I'm magic, Dom? Am I magic?
You could be magic, or yeah, maybe that's just the ups and downs, and that's what inconsistency is. That's why sometimes I like to keep some of my notes and say, this is where I was, and then by the end of the game, this is where I ended up. Just to track what some of the positives were in those flashes of greatness, but also flashes of what needs to improve. I think just because they get better in the span of a week, do they get better consistently over the course of a season? I don't know. That's still to be seen. So it can still be a fair call out to cover. But maybe you are just magic, Corey. Maybe you've got the magic in you, especially now that you have your little ducky friend.
That's all you, man. And I appreciate you giving me Herman every day. People have asked me, what is that? I was like, you don't understand. This is Herman. He was given to me by a dear friend who made him for me. And ever since I put him on, the Avalanche have not lost a hockey game. And they look at me with a large amount of understanding, and they know.
Well, I'm glad they know. But yeah, I'm happy that Herman brings you so much joy and so much good luck to the Avalanche.
He does. He escapes from my glasses occasionally. I'm like, Herman! And I have to hunt him down on the ground. And I feel terrible whenever he falls from my glasses like an angel from heaven. But another great thing is the Avalanche beat the Kraken again. And man, does that make me happy. It's funny because I deny that there's a rivalry between the Kraken and the Avalanche as much as I think certain fans would like to say that there is. But I do hold a grudge. I have a grudge against the Kraken, not a rivalry. I think there's a lot to be said for that season, that playoff berth. And, you know, I give credit to the Kraken. They were a scrappy team, and clearly, you know, they made it for a reason. And they even pushed the Dallas Stars to 7 games. So, I mean, they played 14 games in 2 rounds of playoff hockey. But man, was I glad to see them go home. And I get great joy out of beating them every time. And I'm not condoning, and I'm not saying that, you know, the Avs Faithful have not been rude back to Kraken fans, but man, were they mean when we lost the playoff series to them, insulting all of our players, insulting our coach, insulting everything about our existence. And I take that shit personally. So, therefore, every time we beat that team, I am very glad. And it's a team that I certainly do not enjoy losing to. Near the top of my list.
Well, and maybe it's because they are new to the league. And when you're new to the league, it's either somebody picks a rival for you or you start to pick your own rival. And I think they've picked a fight with y'all since, you know, they want to compete. They see Dallas has started to be inconsistent and is fallible. And that's the most current Avs rival, I think. It was the Blues a few years before that in the 2010s more so. But, yeah, maybe it's not so much the Avs are picking the Kraken, but the Kraken want to be able to beat the Avs and call them a rival. And so they try to treat you like a rival and see if they can goad you into treating them that way back. And boom, a rivalry is born. I don't know if Vegas really wanted the Sharks as a rival, although we're not a bad team to have as a rival right now because everybody beats us. But Vegas certainly pissed off a lot of us enough that we hate them more than any of our California rivalries, which are true rivalries. So it's just an interesting thing that how rivalries come and go over time.
Well, and you know, I think that's an interesting point, though, Dom, is I think a lot of rivalries really do come from those playoff series. And I mean, you could definitely make a solid argument that the Kraken maybe warrant a rivalry, but it's like, what happens after? And I think the following year, the beef was kind of quashed because, you know, Cale Makar hurt Jared McCann, which of course he did not do it intentionally, but then Jordan Eberle broke Andrew Cogliano's neck. And the following season, you know, Logan O'Connor fought Jordan Eberle, and I think the beef was squashed then. And it's like, okay, you know, bye for an eye, whatever, we're good. But I don't think the history is long enough for the rivalry to be really cemented. Whereas I agree with you. Would you say that Dallas is probably Colorado's biggest rival right now?
I would say so. I think based on talent matchup, I think the prospects that Dallas has in the chain, and I think the difference has been Dallas has had more goaltending and the Avalanche have had more offense. And so that has been a fun battle to watch, but they've been at a similar spot in the playoffs. They've had rosters that can both beat each other and yet struggle against other teams at times. And so I think just as a matchup wise, the two teams match up well for an exciting game every time they play. And that consistency can help cement a rivalry, especially when it's high play, competitive play in the playoffs, that type of thing.
And that's the whole thing, right? Is I agree with you. I think Dallas is that way. We faced them in the playoffs multiple times.
Regionally, they're close as well,
Yes.
and that always has an impact on rivalry games because it's easier to travel to the opposing team's stadium and to make an impact, and that'll always increase the tension in the building.
Yes. And I mean, we actually have a really long playoff history with the Dallas Stars dating back to the 90s. So, I mean, there's a lot of history there, especially recent history. The Stars have gotten the best of the Avalanche the last few times that they've played. So there's a lot of that. They have a lot of really strong regular season play, and they're in the division. And I think the Kraken are just missing some of those elements. You know, the regular season play from them just isn't as strong as it was that one kind of magical year that they managed to get a playoff berth. They're not in the same division, and they've only met in the playoffs one time. So I think there just needs to be a little more for it to be a confirmed rivalry, and they need to kind of trade blows between wins and losses. Because, I mean, that's the whole thing. When Dallas and Colorado come head-to-head in the regular season, you're not quite sure who's going to come out on top every game. And, I mean, when they meet in the playoffs, it's always usually a pretty long series. It's never one that's short. I think they've gone to game 6s and 7s quite a few times. So, yeah.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And it's even sometimes when their teams aren't in the playoffs necessarily, you'll see the Sharks will always play the Ducks and the Kings close. And that rivalry, while it's not intense, there's not a lot of hatred there. Those California rivals you see multiple times per year play each other a lot. That it is back and forth, and that's that type of thing where the Kings are a playoff caliber team this year, and yet the Sharks beat them on consecutive games at one point this season. So, and the Sharks, yes, they had Mackenzie Blackwood at the time, but they're still not a playoff caliber team. Then they've looked better than the Ducks on occasions and lost to the Ducks multiple times, and so it can be up and down, and they're so funny in rivalry games where even if teams are bad, the games can always be competitive, even if one team on paper is a lot better than the other. And so maybe that's the only way that Seattle creates that, is if they can start winning games when they are on paper the worst team than the Avalanche, which right now during the Avs window, I think is the case. So this is the time for them to try to steal games and create the rivalry, because who knows when they will be good and whether or not the Avs will care to create a rivalry back.
Yeah, but we'll keep grooving, everybody, because I want Dom to have time to dive into the tank. But our last little point for the good here is, well, I guess I don't know why I didn't say this. The Avalanche are on a 3-game winning streak right now, which is really great. Wait, no, hold on. I guess maybe I kind of talk about that later on. I'll save it, but we're on a 3-game winning streak. But Yoel Kiviranta, who we poached from Dallas, has quietly become such an impact player for the team. Yes, he's had increased ice time, which can lead to increased production, but he is having the statistical best season of his career. He's never been a big points guy, but as I've said, when he scores, it's meaningful every single time. It's never just garbage goals or goals that had the lead. It's the go-ahead goals. It's the game winners. It's that insurance goal that you absolutely need. He's fast and he can play. He's demonstrated he can play with anyone on the team. His Finnish connection with Mikko Rantanen being an example during the Kraken game. And, during that Kraken game, scoring his first regular season hat trick, and of course having a good sense of humor, reminding Avs Faithful of the other hat trick that he scored that we all are desperately trying to forget. Are you aware of this hat trick, Dom?
I am aware of this hat trick. I remember you telling me about it, and he also had a pair of goals, as you might have heard from past Dom and past Corey here tonight, that he had against the Sharks. So he's been showing up consistently, and he's up there, if not leading the league, he's up there in the lead of goals per game right now.
Yeah, he's been scoring a lot. I don't know about goals per game, but in terms of the actual Avalanche themselves, he is high on our goals leaders. I don't know if he's up there in goals per game for the league itself.
Well, that's fair. I thought he was up there in goals per game because he was scoring a lot more goals than getting assists. So
I see what you're saying. I think he still only has I can find out here. He only has, he has 10 goals, but he has played, I think, almost every game this season.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I mean, the Avalanche currently have 7 players with 10 goals or more, which is fucking awesome. And the only reason some of the other players don't have more goals is because, they're injured. So that is unfortunate. But yeah, you're getting contributions from across the board right now, and that's what's going to push the Avalanche, is people like Kiviranta. That's who's going to get the Avalanche over the hump in a tough playoff battle, So it's great. I'm super glad that he's excelling, and he's someone that I'm glad they keep bringing back every year. I had a good feeling when they signed him to another 1-year deal just as a depth piece this year, and he's really stepped up to be super serviceable with the Avalanche. But it's time for the bad. So, open ice. I know. Open ice. The Avs are still giving the other team too much open ice to play with. And that's usually something you can get away with lesser teams, no offense, like the Sharks and Anaheim. But you need to clean it up, against better opponents. And it might be a situation of the Avs playing down to their opponents. but we'll have to wait and see. But the open ice that was allowed for both the Sharks and the Ducks, that allowed them to start to generate consistent offense. This in turn has led to the Avalanche being outshot by offensively weaker teams. You know, this team plays with a newfound confidence now that it has netminders behind it that won't fail them, which is great. But in my opinion, as I've probably already mentioned, you need to play with the same energy, not mentality, of having the old goaltending core behind you. Keep those shots and chances limited. The Avs are allowing teams to hang way too much, and the Ducks, for example, waylaid the Avs immediately after the Avalanche had scored upon them. And finally, the Avalanche are taking way too many penalties. And while the Avs have had an excellent PK, it's been tested far too many times lately, particularly against the Sharks and the Ducks, with a total of 11 penalties between those two games and multiple too many men penalties.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the Sharks game, we talked about it. There were a lot of back and forth penalties that were questionable, to say the least. So it was, and that was just in the third, because in the first two periods, they barely called anything.
Right.
So I don't know if that stat is fully representative of what the Avs deserve there, because that was just a weird call in the Sharks game. But yes, overall, they've taken way too many men penalties, because we've talked about that. It shouldn't be happening if you're a professional. You should be able to jump over the boards at the right time.
But one thing, to their credit, I did mean to say, is that they've been playing really strong takeaway hockey. And that I think it really started in the third period against the Sharks, where when a team had the puck, the Avalanche have done an exceptional job of going and getting it. And I'm hoping that the rest of this holiday break, they can come back refreshed against Utah. Whoever had illnesses has gotten over them, and the people who are on the injured list are getting the chance to fully recover here. So that's great. But it's time. Yeah. What do you got, Dom? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, it's great that they have some time to rest up. I think that's needed for everyone, especially injury or no, everyone's playing with something. So enjoying these 3 days to get some rest around the league and to be with their families, I'm sure.
Oh, I did mean to say, though, in regards to the Ducks game and penalties, it was so many between both teams. It was ridiculous. I had it noted as it was just a weird game, because it was. But there was a point in the game where, excuse me, they called a high-sticking penalty on the Ducks. And at first, I thought the penalty was wrong, because Nathan MacKinnon got hit in the face and he winced. And you could see that he did, in fact, get hit in the face with the puck. He was fine. But they roll back the footage, and you see not only does he get hit in the face with the puck, but he also does, in fact, take a high stick before entering the O-zone and then gets hit with the puck. But the refs then meet after calling the minor and say, oopsie, never mind, even though the call was right, and then argued that it was because he got hit by a puck, so therefore he didn't actually get high sticked. But he did get high sticked. They had the call correct. I don't understand how you could call the minor and then you meet with each other and you're like, oh, never mind, no more minor. That doesn't make any sense. I understand you can review it if it's a double minor or a major, but how are you allowed to just take a minor away? You've called the penalty. You should just have to sit there and cry about it if you got it wrong as a ref. I don't understand.
Yeah, and we talk about overturning things. They typically try to use the word clear and obvious. And if it's not clear and obvious that he wasn't hit by a stick and there's that potential, and that's what you called it, you shouldn't be overturning it. So the same would be true if you didn't call it a high stick and then it wasn't clear and obvious whether or not he did, then that's fine. Leave it as no call. But that's if it's clearly there, and you shouldn't be able to overturn the call if you can visibly see stick hit skin, regardless of if a puck hits it first.
Oh, the puck hit him second. That was the crazy part. Is he gets high sticked and he winces from the high stick, and then a puck hits him in the face.
Oh well, then that's
they called the penalty.
And rigged.
It was so unbelievably weird. It was such. That's why I'm saying the game was just weird. I have no idea. I'm just gonna move past it, or I'll be on it all night. It's time for the Avalanche. The Avalanche solidified their third place position in the conference with solid play and have strung together wins and aren't terribly far behind Minnesota, who did win their game before going into the holiday break. but a stronger position in the division, as did the Jets. A stronger position in the division, though, I feel is very possible, but it won't be easy to attain, and it's critical that the Avalanche beat their divisional opponents when those games come around, as those have not been their strongest performances. For example, this next game that they're playing tomorrow is against Utah again, and Utah is lurking for a playoff berth. Dallas and them were tied at 38 points when the two teams played before the holiday break, with Dallas squeezing out the win and going up to 40 points. But if Colorado loses, then Utah becomes tied with Dallas again. And honestly, as much as I believe that Utah is going to fall off a cliff going into the new year, because that's naturally what this team has done over the last few seasons, and I'm fairly certain that's going to happen, the Blues are also lurking in the weeds. This division is one of the strongest it has been in years. So really, the Avalanche, just frankly, plain and simple, need to keep stringing these wins together.
And if you're playing in the toughest division in the league, you can be great in beating everybody else. And typically when you're beating other teams around the league, that's a good sign if there are other high caliber teams that you'll be able to win in the playoffs and do well against teams that you don't always play. But it doesn't matter if you don't get out of that first round game against the teams you do frequently play in your division. And so those are the games, especially if you're in a division that is clearly as good as the Avalanches are, they're the true test for the playoffs. So these games matter even more than they would normally.
And that's why they say these are 4-point games. Yes, you still only get 2 points from them like any other game, but it also allows your divisional opponent to not get those 2 points and gain any ground on you. So that's why they say it's a 4-point game, because not only do you get 2 points, but your divisional opponent doesn't get 2 points. So it is all the more critical, especially coming up on Friday, that the Avalanche beat Utah and continue to win. They thankfully are finally at home after a really tough road stretch. Their first half of the season here has just been brutal, with a lot of back-to-backs, a lot of long road play, and a lot of long road stretches. I mean, I think we mentioned here in December, the Avalanche were only at home for, I think, 3 games out of the entire month, which is crazy talk. So let's hope that they can improve at home and continue to be road warriors, because they're slightly better on the road right now than they are at home, and they were really good at home last year. So I'm hoping everything can just in general trend upwards, and I have a strong feeling that that will be the case with stronger goaltending. Hopefully, some people coming back in from injury. But before any of the injury talk here, the Avalanche let in the first goal for Capo Caco as a Kraken. So cool. Another first for the Colorado Avalanche. Isn't that great, Dom? Isn't that great?
Well, it seems like they want to be the first team in history and like set a world record for the number of firsts or something.
I don't understand it. Also, everybody, Ben Myers is on the Kraken. Didn't remember that, so I don't know if he went somewhere else or if he signed there after he was released by the Avs or if he was picked up on waivers. I don't know. I'll need to look, but there's an interesting fact for you. The Colorado Avalanche are still a rather injured team, and to put it into perspective, it's a bit of a cheat, but Gabriel Landeskog has missed 36 games this season, which is all of them. Jonathan Drouin has missed 31 games this season, so out of all of our games, Jonathan Drouin has only played in 5 of them, which it feels like a crime, and it's a real bummer. Miles Wood missed 20 games this season and is still out right now. Valerian Nichushkin, due to player assistance, missed 17 games, but is thankfully back. Ross Colton has missed 17 games, but is thankfully back. Josh Manson, who is still injured, has missed 12 games so far, and, not a lot of updates on where he's at right now. And Arturi Lehkonen has missed 12 games. This isn't including Oliver Chillington and some of the other kind of minor injuries that the Avalanche have had. But just doing the math on these players that have missed, these are all major impact players, that's 145 games. And again, that's not even counting everybody yet. So that's just crazy. But it seems like the Avalanche, as they state here, have survived the worst of it, but they are still a hurt team who are missing several top 6 guys and a couple of their top 9 guys. So here's hoping that the Avalanche can get some more health coming soon, and when they get health, they stay healthy, because that was the shitty part. They finally get some health, and then 2 guys who had finally managed to climb their way back just get injured all over again, in Jonathan Drouin and Miles Wood.
Yeah, the injury bug is always the unseen opponent that affects every team in the league. Different ways, different years, different amounts. It's the lottery, unfortunately, when it comes to sport. And let's see if the Avs can pick a winning number and get everybody healthy at the right time. The fact that they're winning in spite of the health woes, I mean, we say it time and time again, but it means that they would be, if fully healthy, especially in time for playoffs, a really legitimately threatening team to face.
Absolutely. And an interesting thing about this is they said, the hockey writers did, over the first third of the season, only the San Jose Sharks and St. Louis Blues have accrued a greater cumulative cap hit of injured players. Not necessarily more man games missed, but I guess more value in players missed. So
Interesting. It doesn't necessarily surprise me. I don't know if that counts Logan Couture or not.
I think it does.
But that would obviously weight the results one way because it's not like Celebrini on his rookie contract is making a fuck ton of money. So it is interesting though how it goes around, and then guys will be popping right back in whenever they can. So it's a definitely a tough sport, and we love to see when the guys get back on the ice.
But to wrap up my segment here, Dom, thank you for going back and forth with me here and allowing me to yap a little bit. I always enjoy talking about the Avalanche and Sharks with you all the same, so I'm sorry for hogging the microphone for so long.
No worries. I sometimes take my time hogging it in the tank, and so this is an Avalanche fan cast first and foremost, but it's really great that when we both have those opportunities to just kind of let it roll. So I'm happy to be your teammate going through this with you.
Well, I just love when people glaze the Avalanche, so I like to give you plenty of opportunities to do it.
And to be fair, I personally, with the Sharks, have had more excitement in this season to take longer in the tank and talk about Blackwood and such. There's less flashy excitement to talk about now while that he's gone, and the consecutive and stringing together of losses the Sharks have experienced. So it's it just happens. It goes with the ebbs and flows. Your team is on the up, my team's on the down, and it'll all average out, and we'll talk about it and make it through to the next week and check in then.
True, but to wrap myself up here, the win against the Ducks as well as the Sharks was not the prettiest. They let the other teams hang far too often and got outshot. The ice was too open and the penalties were rampant. But that being said, the Avs are finding ways to win, and their goaltending is keeping them in the games. Not only that, but they've taken over, as I said, third place in the division. But this team can play better, and they have played better. And I think the Kraken was a great example of that they can play better. And the Avalanche have always been victims of playing down to their opponent. But the fact that they're still winning anyway is great. And I mean, the narrative would be, oh, you only beat the Sharks, the Ducks, the Kraken, you only beat these lowball teams. But as we mentioned, I think early on in the podcast, those are the games you should be winning. If you're not collecting points at that point, which is pretty much, free-low, easy money, you're missing out there to gain grounds on your stronger opponents, your strong opponents like the Wild and the Jets. And I mean, Dallas is, right behind us. So if you're not winning those games, you frankly don't deserve to even be considered in the contender conversation. So yeah, you should be winning winnable games. And it isn't just, oh, you only beat those teams. Yeah, you should. And those games matter all the same. 2 points is 2 points. But anyway,
every game matters. Anyone can win any given night. So winning those games that are winnable and that you are the favorite is huge, because that's what separates the wild card teams from the division winners. And that can make a huge difference for your playoff run when you're on the road, who your opponents are, all of it. So every game matters.
The contenders from the pretenders. So finally, there has been like subtle shade thrown at the former goaltending tandem, and it's not obvious, but if you listen to how coaches, color commentators, TV analysts, you listen to how they talk, and there's just subtle nods and references to what they say. I mean, even Mackenzie Blackwood, and again, it has been stated that Mackenzie Blackwood was open to an extension with the Sharks. So, I mean, he by no means hates the Sharks. So Sharks fans, don't take offense to this. But one statement that he had was, about the Avs, yeah, this team doesn't leave you out to dry. And I was just like, oh. again, Mackenzie Blackwood clearly understands the positions that the Sharks were in, so I don't think he has any ill will towards you. And that's really not even the best example. It's really came a lot from our TV analysts, who, of course, aren't necessarily allowed to say anything terribly negative about the previous goaltending tandem while they were here and now that they've passed, because, of course, that's former organizational members and they can't be too mean about it publicly. But there's just, you know what I mean, Dom? Like, there's just certain little jabs and comments that you're just like, oh, you know what they're saying. You know who they're talking about.
Yeah, it's part of the game. I think it's just the politics side of the sport, which I think happens in any sport, to be honest. But yeah, no offense taken over here. We know the Sharks' defensive woes, and it is a rebuilding team. And I think part of that is since it was pretty clear that Greer had no intent of re-signing him, no matter how well he was playing, that I think would be a fair reason to send a jab the Sharks' way, because that would be leaving him out to dry after a really good season as well. So even if it's not the players, if it's in the GM's office, it's the small jab either way, and I think it's a fair one if you think about it from that context.
Yes. Finally, everybody, forgot I had this. Your players for the Avalanche, your players of the week, are Valeri Nichushkin, who cannot stop scoring goals, Yoel Kiviranta, who also cannot stop scoring goals and has had his first regular season hat trick. Congratulations again to him. And our number one player this week is Cale Makar. He was named the NHL's overall first star of the week, so I think that's evidence enough for me to put him at number one, constantly having an impact all over the ice. But, I am genuinely sorry to see the other end of the goaltending trade not quite working out in your team's favor, but we must remember that it is all part of the grander plan, and there are plenty of positives to take from your losses. Spoiler alert, sorry everyone. Your team is still scoring goals, and Askarov already looks like the next Blackwood, but I won't steal any more of your bubbles. Everyone, it's time for In the Tank with Dom.
Well, thanks, Corey. And you're absolutely right. I have it noted here that Askarov, we'll just go right in, is 1-1-2 now in his 4 games started with a 275 goals against average. So still very good and respectable, but you're starting to see that increase some as the Sharks lose games in front of him. And he's at a .909 save percentage. So that's, again, respectable and about where you would expect, similar to Blackwood numbers in San Jose. Interestingly, though, he and Georgiev have each surrendered 11 goals. However, Yarrow, I like to call Askarov Yarrow, short for his first name, has done so. He's only given up 11 goals while making 37 additional saves and playing 1 additional game beyond what Georgiev has played for the Sharks. So that's... Yeah, I mean, he's showing up. He's clearly the better of the two, so the trade isn't working out in that sense, but the unfortunate but fortuitous injury to Vanacek has opened the door for Askarov to step up and be that next goalie now and be the goalie for the future. Nonetheless, though, you were correct. It was all losses on the slate this week, starting with the Avalanche game. Past Corey and past Dom did a wonderful job handling that, so I'm honestly not going to go into it too much. I had a great time with you, and that's the only thing left to celebrate. Otherwise, we move on to the next games, and there was some hope this week for some wins, but at the Christmas break, San Jose has slid back to last place in the Pacific on 28 points. They ranked 19th or worse in every major NHL statistic, including 31st in multiples. So they are sinking to the bottom of the league right now, and it has not been pretty. I also mentioned the trade rumors because when you are that bad and a rebuilding team, people will say that you should be sellers at the trade deadline, and I mentioned Barclay Goodrow. The only other one I've heard about potentially is if Mikael Granlund would be a potential target because he is having a good year. He had a good year last year. And I had personally assumed that he's a potential trade candidate of interest to some playoff contending teams with how well he's been playing. However, there is now recent chatter of a new contract that this conversation is starting, and the goal is to get him one sometime here in January for an extension. So that would be a huge commitment as part of the Sharks rebuild here to have him. I would assume that would be for either 3 or 4 years, but it could be as long as 6. So that would be a big deal if that does end up happening and a commitment to their future as a piece to build this rebuild around. Corey, any other Sharks news or questions before I get into game by game analysis?
Yeah, I'm sorry to kind of steal it here. I did get a chance to watch Askarov's game against Edmonton, just jumping into it now. And I mean, he looked incredible. The fact that you ended up, spoiler alert, losing that game, I think is just pure bad luck. And it was a no fault of Yaroslav Askarov. He played remarkable. And I'm sad because, again, I was at work and I got up, I came back, and my coworkers telling me that he had this flurry of insane saves. And do you recall how many shots he stopped that game, or how many SOGs there were for that Edmonton game?
So in regulation or at the moment of the game tying goal, Askarov had 41 saves on 43 shots at
Which
that
is
point. And
remarkable.
he had 30 saves on 31 shots through the first two periods and set a record, a Sharks record, at least going back to at least the 2015-16 season, is what they were able to track back on the broadcast, but it could have gone back even further. Making 23 saves in the second period alone is setting a Sharks record over that time period. And 23 saves, guys. Some teams make that in an entire game. He made that in one period, in the second period alone. So Yaro is the future, as much as Macklin Celebrini is. If he keeps playing like this with his extended audition, we will see him leading the Sharks goaltending as early as next season. If not, I mean, if you could consider it now because of the options that are left.
Yeah, and exactly. You sum it up perfectly. And I think that's what Mackenzie Blackwood's talking about. I mean, he just got hung out to dry, but man, did he hang in there against Edmonton's best. I mean, no matter what happens with the rest of the team, Edmonton still has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on it, and Zach Hyman, to his credit. And those guys can score, especially when they're on the ice at the same time. And Yaroslav just said no. I mean, he was just stringing together those highlight reel saves. So credit to who isn't Nabokov your goaltending coach? I was going to say credit to whoever the Sharks goaltending coach is, but I think I know it's Nabokov, correct?
He is indeed. The Sharks legend in net is now the legendary coach of the netminders.
So, I mean, seriously, all the credit to Nabokov. He just has the ability to create incredible goaltenders. I mean, he was an incredible goaltender himself. So, truly, I have to throw that all his way. And I mean, Yaroslav has a lot of natural talent as well. So, I'm happy for you that you do still have a strong goaltending.
Oh, absolutely. And it's been a wonderful thing to see now after a string of bad years of goaltending, to see it much improved. And remember, both of these guys were acquired in trades. So whether it's him or if it is in the GM's office with Mike Greer recognizing the talent and then being able to hone it and train it, has really been impressive by the Sharks organization as a whole, and gives me more hope with all of the future prospects in the pipeline that the time is coming and the Sharks will have their day to hoist the cup in San Jose sometime. I believe. Even during this time, I believe that it will happen, and it will happen sometime here before the decade is out. That is my belief. I'm calling it now, Corey. Before the end of 2030, the Sharks will have hoisted the Stanley Cup.
That's a good thing to put into the world. You want to know something? At the beginning of the 2022 season, I stated the Avalanche will win the Stanley Cup in the next 5 years. That year, they won their third Stanley Cup. So that is a great thing to put out into the world, Dom. Manifesting that success will get your team there. I believe it.
Well, thanks, man, and I believe it too. But going back to the start of this Oilers game, because that was about when the Sharks played their best hockey, was in the first 12 minutes of the game. And the Luke Cunnin scored early, a couple of minutes in on the Oilers, but the Oilers actually did not have a registered shot on goal at home until 4.5 minutes into the game. So that strong offense was a little slow to start. Like you mentioned, Hyman, he did tie it up midway through the first, but Wallman actually had the quick response on a delayed Edmonton penalty and was able to rifle it home. That was at about 12 minutes into the first period. After that, it was all Oilers offense, and Edmonton turned it on as the first period continued and were even more dominant in the second. I have it noted here that the Sharks lead 2-1 after 2 periods, thanks to the heroics of Askarov. I already said it, but again, just because this stat is incredible, Yaroslav put the entire team on his back, making 23 saves in the second period alone. That is the most by a Sharks goalie in the past 10 years. It was an insane thing to watch because these weren't just regular saves. These were high danger chances, series of saves in a row, sprawling out on his side, blocking most of the net for trying to stop wraparounds, all kinds of amazing goaltending. So really exciting to get to witness this one live. However, that for that reason alone, it was not exciting for me to watch as a fan because large chunks of the second period looked like an Edmonton power play, despite it being full-strength 5-on-5 hockey. The Sharks just could not get possession, could not have any sustained offense. They were outshot 31-14 through the first 2 periods alone. And Yaroslav Askarov, he made 30 saves other than one of his first shots he faced on the night, which that does seem to be a theme. His early shots seem to be the ones that break him the worst. When it's his first 5 shots of the game that he faces, those ones are the ones that seem to get by him, and then he's on his game. So I wonder if that's something that perhaps is the only area of constructive criticism he can work on. But overall, the Sharks bent. The defense bent. The offense was non-existent. They bent, but Askarov kept them from breaking. But like I said, as the first period continued and rolled on to the second period, the Oilers just became increasingly dominant. And it wasn't until early in the third period, when MacLeod, Celebrini, the man himself, the wonder kid, he tried to jumpstart the Sharks early in the third period off of a 2-on-1 opportunity with a pass from Kovalenko, getting it right in front of the net for Celebrini to be 1-on-1. There was no luck, however, with a strong save from Edmonton's netminder. And after that, it was back to the regularly scheduled programming of Oilers keeping the pressure on and ultimately scoring a heartbreaking goal with 17 seconds remaining. And like I said, Corey, at that point in time, Askarov had 41 saves on 43 shots. They just had some slick passing off of a rebound and were able to fire it home before Askarov could get across. It really wasn't his fault. It just tough time, and the Sharks couldn't clear the zone and get a stop ultimately there late in the game. To make matters worse, once that game was lost, you're already on the road. You're in Edmonton. The crowd is going wild. Just got back into this, and they've been firing the puck at you all game. They've been the better team all game, even if the Sharks were holding the lead for most of it. And Draisaitl showed that. Celebrini was able to get on the puck after the faceoff, make a zone entry in OT, but he lost the puck off his stick, and the Oilers got a 3-on-1-2 rush, the second guy getting back in time. MacLeod was not able to do so. And Draisaitl rifled it home 18 seconds into overtime to punish the Sharks quickly. So they were 17 seconds away from winning the game, and all it took was another total 35 seconds to have them lose the game. 35 seconds of game time. So quite the quick collapse and turnaround for the Sharks. I mean, like I said, the Oilers were the better team in this game through and through, but the Sharks really had a chance to win if they could finish the game strong. And that failure to finish games strikes yet again. And I know it can be hard. They have the goalie pulled, but you just got to get in the lanes. You just got to step up, put some pressure, and win the puck back. There's nothing more to it. The goalie's going to do the best they can, but with so many bodies, it's harder to see. So it's on the players in front of him to show up and do a better job in those late game moments. It's no one else's fault. So the Oilers battled harder, wanted it more, and took the win with ease at the end there, even if all game that they weren't getting lucky and Yaroslav was trying to steal it. So, you know, I'm frustrated because the Sharks really have no business beating Edmonton, and like I said, they were 17 seconds away. So to blow that, it was frustrating. They found a way to make me feel upset about a loss to a team I never would have thought we would have beat in the first place. So a game that should have been not very stressful at all, and it's either I go in and watch them suffer quickly, or maybe they jump out to a lead. They managed to make it stressful and still have it end in suffering.
I think that's the tough part, is to win games, even if you have a slow start, both parts of the ice have to be locked in, right? Not only does your goaltender need to be locked in, but the other 5 guys in front of him do need to be as well. And unfortunately, only Yaroslav was locked in for the entire 60 minutes. And I mean, the first period for the Sharks was so great because you scored first, Edmonton gets the tying goal, and you immediately, almost immediately, go up again, which was a fantastic display against, Edmonton's been kind of up and down, but ultimately a better team. So it's unfortunate when that really kind of fell off throughout the rest of the game. Like, it's not a surprise that the Sharks end up having more shots put up against them, but it's like they spent all of their energy in that first period. And it really did seem like, okay, it's fine. Even though we haven't been able to generate much for the rest of this game, Yaroslav has kept us in it. All we got to do is survive this final minute of the game. And it broke my heart when Edmonton got the tying goal, because at that point, you know how momentum is in hockey. Once it swings the other way, it's very, very, very hard to tip the scales back in your favor.
Yeah, it absolutely is, especially when you're on the road in Edmonton at the time, and then that opportunity in overtime. I mean, it was a rookie mistake from MacLeod to go in alone so quickly on the rush in overtime and lose the puck. We see now that overtime these days, possession is what matters. So I guess I applaud him for being aggressive, like you and I talked about, Corey. And if you're going to lose, get it over quickly, but try to win as well and take advantage of the extra ice. Well, when you're trying to charge 1-on-2, that's not that same smart hockey that you and I were talking about. So there needed to be a bit of balance there from him. So he will get better, I'm sure, as he matures more. He is, while still an amazing talent, he is still young and learning the game. So I do think it's a fair call out there. It certainly didn't help the momentum swing, because that's what led to Draisaitl getting the goal just a mere seconds later. But you're absolutely right. They did respond when Hyman scored that first goal. They started games quick. This week they started that game quick. I believe they scored first in the Avalanche game. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then the Avs came back to tie it up, or maybe it was the other way around. Either way, they've been scoring more in the first period than they used to, getting off to good starts in games. And they just can't count on goaltending to be the only thing to hold the lead. That there are 6 players on the ice and only one of them's the goaltender at any given time. So it takes the other 5 showing up consistently if you're going to win the game.
Can't have 20 minutes of brilliance. Got to have 60.
Yes, sir. And well, with that in mind, I'm just going to transition to the game on Tuesday at the Vancouver Canucks, finishing up this 2-game series in Canada. And well, William Eklund, again, scoring first for the Sharks. So the Sharks getting on the board first. This was actually on a 5-on-3 power play off a great no-look pass from Granlund with the assist. In fact, Eklund was injured in this game on the hit that drew the second man advantage for that 5-on-3. He stayed out there to play the power play, but ultimately finished the game with only 7 minutes of ice time. And that's an injury to monitor, because he is one of that young core that is developing. He's someone I know I've talked about a lot. I like a lot. I think he's underrated. I think he's a great vision on the ice, great with assists, and he shows up on our power play unit a lot, as he did here. So hopefully he heals quickly. I'm not sure what the injury is. There's not a lot of information other than that he did miss the majority of that game in Vancouver. So hopefully he can be back in time for this game against the Knights on Friday night. But we'll have to wait and see if Eklund's going to miss more time.
Okay, pause.
Overall,
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Who the fuck put together your schedule? Every time I take a look at who you just played and who you're playing next, my God, it is the hardest schedule known to man. The schedule maker hates the Sharks, evidently, because my goodness, it is just stringing absolute juggernaut teams back to back to back. My gosh.
Yeah,
It's fucked up.
December was pretty fucked up, and I do think part of it is, yeah, the juggernaut teams on the East Coast road trip, that was brutal. But even the teams that weren't juggernauts, like, I don't know if everyone expected Washington to be a juggernaut this year, but
And they are.
that was supposed to maybe be an easier one. The Blues certainly was a win, but it was not an easy one by any means for the Sharks. So there were games in there that maybe maybe were thought to be easier and ended up being harder, especially here in the West Coast. Like, I don't remember when they make the schedules, if it's the year prior or multiple years, like with a bargaining agreement. So I don't fully know that one of how long into the past these games, or the opponents at least, would have been decided. But yeah, playing Vancouver back to back after, well, not back to back, but playing Vancouver after Edmonton, after Colorado, after that long road trip, it's after a couple of losses at home too with Utah. Like, Utah is better than maybe expected, although you and I had high thoughts on Utah. So I think it's not all the scheduler's fault. It just turned out to be a really rough December schedule for the Sharks, and the conference is better than maybe people expected in the West. So it is just a harder schedule overall when you're playing in the West.
Very true.
So it was overall a strong first period from the Sharks, but the Canucks kept up the pressure with a really strong and forceful forecheck, and tied up the game in the first. On the ensuing faceoff, Barclay Goodrow actually went after Myers, Tyler Myers, who is a big man, and this is the league we live in these days. And Barclay went and challenged Tyler to a fight, and Tyler Myers is much bigger than Barclay Goodrow, so this fight was only going to end one way, or maybe 1.5, because it actually was a draw. Neither guy ended up on the ground. Tyler Myers was kind and didn't throw a ton at Barclay until Barclay kind of tired himself out, but he was definitely trying to respond for the hit on Eklund. It was a clean hit. It was just a hard hit, and it clearly injured the kid, so I'm not happy about the hit for that reason, but it was clean. And so this is just the NHL we live in. We've talked about it, Corey, where a clean hit, if it's a hard enough hit, it leads to a fight afterward just to stick up for your guys. And again, that is the culture type of thing Barclay Goodrow believes in and sets, even if it doesn't have the same magnitude of importance. If Eklund's already out of the game, if it wasn't dirty, if, it's not like you're getting pummeled in the game. It's not something that needs to be done. It's just that culture that Barclay brings. Like I said, Myers was a much larger opponent that Barclay couldn't truly take on. And actually later in the second period, Delandria was in a second fight. So it was just a feisty game overall. Both teams getting together, as I put here, in multiple other gatherings of frustration when the gloves are maybe giving a little face wash, but no actual fighting going on. Just that chippier type of game with a higher intensity where you felt like things could boil over any minute, despite no long rivalry here that I can think of one way or the other. I know the Canucks and Sharks have played for a long time, but it's not something that I think of as a true rivalry. So maybe it's one I have to spend more time researching because of how physical this game was.
Absolutely. What did you just call it? When they come together, but they're not really fighting.
Multiple gatherings of frustration and face washing. Because when you do the face wash just with the glove, that's what my dad would always call it. When you just put the glove in the guy's face, and it's not like you're actually touching him; it's just because of all the cushion. So there was that quite often during this game. So like I said, maybe there's more rivalry to research. But quite simply, while the Sharks are able to lose games in the span of 5 minutes or less, Vancouver was willing to play that way and win a game in 5 minutes or less, because it was the final 5 minutes of the second period when Vancouver won this game. They scored 3 goals, and Corey, guess how long?
If I know correctly, it was like 1:10.
It was 1:10 exactly. Good job.
Yeah!
The first 2 goals being scored in 30 seconds. So goals separated by 30 seconds, and then another one 40 seconds after that. So a brutal series where the Sharks just fell asleep at the wheel. The second one scored was actually challenged for goaltender interference, which strikes on the pod yet again of nobody knows what goaltender interference is, because the Canuck player clearly hooked Askarov's stick, was right in front of him, and was blocking him from being able to move with his stick and hold his position. Excuse me. And he was at least part of a skate over into the blue, across into the crease. So you could argue Askarov was a little high, but the fact is the guy hooked his stick intentionally with his stick, and it stopped Askarov from being able to make a play. The Sharks challenged for goaltender interference, but despite what seemed to be a clear and obvious call both to myself and the commentators. It was ultimately the Sharks were charged with a delay a game penalty and the goal the goal stood. And so Vancouver was suddenly up 3-1 with an ensuing power play in the span of about 30 seconds. Well, then the 12 seconds into that power play, just keep up with me with all these small numbers here. 12 seconds in, the Sharks were assessed another penalty, giving Vancouver a 5-on-3 of their own. And so then Vancouver scored their fourth and final goal of the game with 2:08 remaining in the second period on that 5-on-3. As we've talked about, Corey, we expect to convert on 5-on-3s, so I don't really feel the need to overanalyze that. But the point is, the Sharks just had everything go from bad to worse with something bad happening virtually every 15 seconds. And that's all that lost in the game was those 70 seconds right there. So it was really just very poor play, some bad luck probably. I can't blame Askarov for all of them. I mean, some of them he was just beaten. That happens. Sometimes they just have a wicked shot, and that's the bad defense in front or the turnovers and whatever else. It's just poor play all over the ice. And the final period, I did note here, the Sharks did rally back some to make the final score 4-3. Goals coming from CC at 4:21 and Luke Cunnin with 6 seconds left in the game. But obviously that was too little too late. The empty net 6-on-5 provided multiple Sharks chances, including multiple hit posts. So there was that feeling that the Sharks, with 2 minutes left, could still get back in this game when they were down 4-2. Of course, that 4-3 goal came too late for them to actually have a legitimate chance. So, yeah, that was another game where the Sharks started well and finished poorly. And it wasn't necessarily that they finished the third period poorly. They outscored the Canucks 2-0 in the third period, but it was too little too late, and they finished the second period on such a bad note that it really made it quite the tough hill to climb.
That's what I'm saying, though, is ultimately, even if you are losing, at least your team isn't getting blown out right now. And they're also still scoring goals. And I think that's the important thing to at least keep in perspective. Yes, no one wants to lose. And of course, if the shoe was on the other foot here, I would be equally as mad as you so often eloquently put it. But I think, especially in your team's development on the up and coming, the fact that they have the ability to still convert on their chances, they're still scoring goals, they're still hanging around in games, even if they have no business being in it, they're still winning. Or sorry, not winning, but they're still scoring. The difference is obviously are these big kind of mistakes where they're getting 3 scored on them in a minute 10, or, that final little mini collapse at the end of the game. So it's just about overcoming, I think, these obstacles that you only see from contenders once in a blue moon. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I think you get the idea.
No, I agree, and you're absolutely correct. That's what it is. They have to overcome these mental mistakes, but you're right. They aren't at the bottom of the league, unable to generate offense for their life and having bad goaltending. So something is better, and this is a rebuild, so we didn't expect it to get better overnight. We've seen Mook Madulin, he's doing a good job. We've seen what the future looks like just based on what's going on in the OHL and how the Barracuda, our prospect pool, is looking good, and the defense will continue to improve. Askarov is showing up that he is right now trying to audition to be that goalie of the future that people expected. So the team is getting better, and they're not dumpster fire, just bottom of the basement level anymore. They are competitive. They are feisty. They are fixing things slowly and getting to be perfectly mediocre in certain categories. So it is improvement from what we looked at last year, and if they keep on this trajectory, I still believe that they will hoist the cup before the end of the decade. So I'm going to stick to that call and keep manifesting it into existence, because it is better, and it is more enjoyable as a fan to just be able to watch games that are somewhat competitive. But those moments when they do fall apart, they happen too frequently right now, and they really hurt as a fan when you're showing up committed, and it makes it hard to finish out a game when you just get walloped and things change in such a short period of time. You're just like, blink and what happened? You could go to the bathroom and miss it. So it's like, obviously, if you trained like we did in the times before the iPhone, you can go during commercials, but that just that old reference for those who appreciate it.
I didn't get that reference. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't remember the days of cable only television, none of the streaming at your fingertips. So if you wanted to go to the bathroom or go get a snack, it was the race during the commercial break.
I do see what you mean. Man, I can hardly even remember that. I do know what you mean. I was just on the tail end of it because there wasn't always a time when I could pause TV. So yes, that's very fair. I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to something like more specific.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't going more specific. That was just general. But point being, the Sharks, it is painful. It is disheartening. Overall, this season is better and has been more enjoyable, but it has also been a more roller coaster of emotions. Last year, the lows were so low and so consistent that you become a cynic about it a little bit, and you're ready for the pain. You become hardened to it. This year, with the improvements and the things that are better, the fact that there are highs and there are things to be excited about, it makes the whiplash of going between highs and lows that much more stressful. In a sense, this year, while better, has sent me through a much wider range of emotions, some giant ups and downs, and some mood shifts from the season. So, pros and cons, double-edged sword there, that as things get better, unfortunately, the pain might sometimes get worse.
Certainly, and I do hope for continued improvement because I like a happy Dom, and I like the idea of both of our teams being more competitive on their own and against each other. So as long as we keep this podcast going, I look forward to those days ahead, especially when we have those games where the Avs play the Sharks or vice versa, and they're really competitive, especially with the up and coming guys that you got.
Yeah, and here's to a hopeful Askarov versus Blackwood matchup in net in March when the Sharks are here in town, because that'll be fun for both of us, I think, and make for a great game.
I think it absolutely will. It is definitely something I'm looking forward to in this upcoming 2025. Well, everybody, if you need a resolution, if you're the kind of person who does that, watch more hockey in 2025. I know I will be, if that's even possible. Well, Dom, are you ready for today's fun fact?
Oh, always. Please do tell.
Well, when you were talking about naming for the Utah Hockey Club, that got me thinking about the Colorado Avalanche. Did you know, Dom, that they weren't always going to be called the Colorado Avalanche?
I did not know that, actually. Well, I've seen some old logos, but I did actually not know that. I thought that was always intended to be.
Well, no, sir. In fact, Charlie Lyons, former owner of Ascent Entertainment, acquired the Quebec Nordiques in 1995, and he needed a new name for his team. Thus, the Rocky Mountain Extreme was born. Charlie Lyons was a big ski bum, loved the mountains, and he just thought that this was the perfect name. But to put it very simply, very nicely, the public hated it. The logo was not flattering, the color combo was gross, and the name simply did not appeal to the soon-to-be Avs Faithful. In short, Comsat, the parent company, created a list of 8 names. The names that would go up for vote were, to the public of course, the Avalanche, Rapids, Wranglers, Cougars, Black Bears, Outlaws, Renegades, and Storm. And you actually may recognize some of those names today. Example, the Rapids are now the soccer team, and the Outlaws are actually one of Colorado's lacrosse teams, a part of a different league. The Mammoth are the NLL, but forget what league the Outlaws are. So some of those names were still used for Colorado sport teams, but the Avalanche won by a lot. And there's actually a lot more to the story, and I'll link the original article, but there is also a great section on it in the book, 100 Things Avalanche Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die by Adrian Dater. So there they go. There you go. They were almost called the Rocky Mountain Extreme.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was thinking of the Quebec Nordiques, and I knew about that part of the history, but I must have missed that brief time in the middle, just like this brief time with the Utah Hockey Club, and God, I hope they pick a good team name out there so we can stop calling them that. The HC.
The old HC. I was trying to see. Man, they don't have any good images of what it was supposed to look like online, but it was like this ugly red and green color. Oh boy, it was.
From what you said, I wouldn't
good.
expect any good images online. Got to save that dad joke in there.
Here's one. It doesn't have color, but here's concept of what it would have looked like.
Oh God, that is bad.
Yeah, it's not great. Oh boy, it was just gross. So thankfully, everybody, we ended up with the Colorado Avalanche. Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. Did you know there is a comment section where you can leave your thoughts and questions? If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche, Sharks, or just hockey in general, leave it below and we'll be happy to try and answer it. There is also a unique poll for you to interact with every episode. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and share this podcast everywhere you can, whether that's with your mouse or your mouth. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And this is Dom from the Tank.
Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone, and Happy New Year.